Morning.
Good morning. If we can have everyone take their seats, please. Welcome to the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 14th, and it's 9 a.m. We'll ask Ricky Bobby to give our invocation, and our Pledge of Allegiance will be by Commissioner Harvey. Please rise if you're able to do so.
Madam Commissioner, our Madam Chair, and Board of Commissioners, newly elected, congratulations, and thank you for allowing us to do this here today, to be here as we start a new year. Happy New Year, and congratulations again. In the book of Timothy, chapter 2, verse 2, it says that, therefore I exhort, First of all, that all supplications, prayers, intercessions, giving of thanks are made for all men, for kings, and all who are in authority, that we may lead quiet and peaceable lives in godliness and reverence, for this is good and acceptable in the sight of God. And I thank you for allowing us to do this. Will you join me in prayer? Our most gracious and heavenly Fathers, we do come to you today. Father, we do submit petitions to you of thanks and gratitude. As we launch into a new year in this county commission, I ask, Father, that you have your hand upon them, upon their families. I ask, Father, that each and every person here that submits a petition, I ask that they do so in grace, that we continue to exhibit mercy and goodness to each other, that we exhibit the fruits of the Spirit, that we do so in godliness and reverence. Father, thank you for those elected here that are stepping out in service to others, and I ask that you continue to guide them throughout the year, for it's in your holy, precious name that I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we'll recess the BOCC meeting and convene the Port Authority meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. We need approval for the minutes of the regularly Board of County Commission meeting.
Madam Chair, I
November
move
26th.
approval of the minutes stated in our packet for the Commission regular meeting November 26, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Port Authority minutes. I have the Port Authority minutes for the regular meeting November 12th and November 26th.
Madam Chair, I move approval on the Port Authority minutes November 12th and November 26th as stated in our agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Do we have any public comment on Port Authority items only? Port Authority items only. Seeing none, we'll close that. General discussion. I believe we have Sam Sullivan is going to discuss, has a presentation for us real quick. Did you have something?
Good morning, Sam Sullivan, Port Manager, Grants, Projects, and Legislative Affairs Coordinator. I'm here before you in my capacity as Port Manager.
Okay.
Want to bring up a presentation, discuss an item that Port staff has been working on for 12 months now, and that is the creation of a port logo. Any port, any business requires a logo. If you do see something like a Chevrolet, you know what kind of car it is. You see a Shell up on a big stand, you know that's a gas station. We are going to be developing something in-house, well, in-county, I should say, to represent our port. We are going to have a port logo contest open to all students grades 7 through 12 from Putnam County, whether they're in the school board, homeschooled, or in a private school like Putnam. We have been in discussions with members from the school board and of Putnam Academy. We still have a few little minute details to iron out, but those will be ironed out in the next couple of days. We know that the school board is meeting with the principals next week, and we will have that information all for them by that time. But just to give you a quick glimpse of what we're looking for, besides the age range that we already mentioned, we're looking for them to develop a memorable, timeless, unique, distinctive, simple, scalable, and adaptable logo that we can use for our port. some of the, I won't spare you all the logistics, artistic logistics and all that, but it would have to be hand-drawn or digitally created. No AI submissions will be accepted. But one of the things that to motivate our students to enter the contest is there will be monetary prizes. First, these prizes will be split 50-50 between the student and their school of attendance. So if it's homeschool, I guess the parents get the money. First prize will be $1,500, $750 each. Second place, $1,000, $500 each, and third place will be $500, $250 each. Sorry, my math is not good. I'm still working on my coffee. And thanks to efforts by Ms. Laura Pavlis from the Chamber, we were able to secure this money, which was being generously donated by former State Representative, the Honorable Bobby Payne. Thank you, Mr. Payne. Submissions will be required to be submitted electronically by April 28th. We will be providing some, I guess you'd call it technical assistance until the end of March, so that if they have questions, all that, we can help them with their foundations. And that's about it, unless you want me to get into the electronic and technical details of it.
No, sir, I think that's great. I'm excited for that. Is there any comments from the board? All right, very good. Thank you for your presentation. Is there any discussion from the board regarding Port Authority items? All right, hearing none, we'll move into our regularly convened meeting. Recess the Port Authority and reconvene the BOCC. First up, we have the rezoning, PUD 23-7. While he's getting ready, for those in the audience who wish to speak today, please fill out a speaker card. It's a blue card in the back, and turn it in to our clerks, please.
Good morning. For the record, Jennifer Gazelle, Planning and Development Services. This case number is PUD 23-000007. Rob and Margaret Mara are requesting a zoning map amendment from Commercial Neighborhood C1 to Planned Unit Development PUD on a 2.8-acre parcel located at 130 Smith Lane in Crescent City to reestablish the fish camp historically located on site. Historically, this parcel was a fish camp on Crescent Lake dating back to 1975. Putnam County property tax appraiser shows an existing 21 total metered pads with private water and private septic connections, 1 residence and 1 retail store. The property owners intend to develop 15 of the existing pads, build a new owner's residence and retail store, while adding additional accessory structures such as a bathhouse, snack bar, laundry room, storage shed, covered pavilion, and a storage area for trucks and boats. The proposed use is a decrease in intensity from what previously occupied the lands. Your aerial view, your zoning, future land use. This is the original site plan from 1975 and the proposed site plan. The property does not meet the requirements set forth by the comprehensive plan to remain as Commercial Neighborhood C1. However, the rural residential future land use category would allow a fish camp minus an owner residence. The private right-of-way does not meet the locational requirement for an overnight recreational park. In an effort to address this fact, the applicant included a roadway maintenance and improvement clause to the accompanying development agreement, which states 130 Smith Lane owners are currently maintaining Smith Lane from roadway end to the paved connector roadway at Paradise Shores Road. The property owners of 130 Smith Lane, Mara, will agree to maintain the roadway with the approval of the PUD and pave Smith Lane within 5 years of the approval. This agreement will be contingent on the individual acceptance of each property owner who owns the roadway center line with a 15-foot right-of-way allowance. Due to the nature of the request and the fact that the commercial developments are traditionally located on a on paved local roadways or highway roadway classifications, staff suggests that the applicant provide some guarantee that Smith Lane will be maintained and improved in a manner that would ensure other property owners would not be negatively impacted by the development. If approved, this roadway maintenance and improvement requirement will be part of the ordinance and enforceable. Mr. Mara has received 15 of the 20 property owners that currently own property on Smith Lane, including himself. Based on these findings, staff has to recommend denial of the request to amend the zoning map from Commercial Neighborhood C1 to Planned Unit Development PUD because the proposed use is accessed by a private unpaved local road and fails to meet the acreage requirement for the overnight recreation parks, despite the fact that the applicant proposes to pave the road within 5 years of approval, and LDC Section 45-223C permits waivers from the Land Development Code. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the zoning application at the scheduled public hearing on December 13th, 2023. Questions?
Are there any questions from the board? Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jennifer, could you go back to the map that shows the ingress and egress, the road, the private road? I remember a year ago when this started, when we had this meeting, we can't allow something on something we don't own.
Correct.
And that was the big deal there, was we don't own the road. And my understanding is some of the neighbors don't want that to happen. 15 out of 20 said yes, but there's still 5. One of the worst experiences of my career was of the commissioner was trying to take a private road to public when the people that started it did not want it to be, well, they wanted it to be public until they found out they couldn't ride their four-wheeler on. And then they ripped up the paperwork and went home. So tell me, how would this partial where it says the orange partial line, how would they get to this piece of property?
How would the RVs access it?
Yes.
Down Smith Road, through Smith Road, which he is proposing to pave, and he's got 75% of the signatures required.
Well,
We're out
I
of
guess
100.
the question I have for you, and you might not be able to answer this, legal might have to do it. We're talking about the shaded-in area to the north of that cul-de-sac, correct?
Correct.
And they come off of, there's 2
To
cul-de-sacs.
the south of that cul-de-sac.
I believe it's the orange,
It's the
The orange outline,
the orange encircled.
yes.
It's the larger piece with the cove in it.
Okay, Madam Chair, may I have a little leverage, a little
Sure.
latitude here?
Yeah.
Mr. Newbold, do you know more about this area than I do?
I am pretty familiar with it. It was, when I was younger, it was an active fish camp.
So do they drive down that paved road, that unpaved road, and turn into their property?
Now, there are 2 red lines, one to the south of the area that's denoted in orange,
Okay.
and then one that is almost bisects that property. It runs dead ends into it. There are homes on either side of that private road.
Okay.
It's currently, I think it's lime rock capped, a little pitted. It's a generally lowish area. My only concern with it is stormwater and how that will be addressed in the scheme of things.
Well, I guess my big concern is we don't own it. It's private, and now we're going to have and I realized in 1975 it was a fish camp. I get that. But a lot of things have changed, and people have moved in, and they're maintaining their own road. We don't own it, and now that road is going to get a lot more usage on there if we continue this. So I'm torn. I really am, as a commissioner, wanting economic development, but also private property rights of people who sometimes don't want that road turned over to the county. They want to keep them private, and they don't want a speedway, and they don't want things done. And that's the end of my comments. Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Commissioner Newbold?
It's my understanding it would remain a private road. We wouldn't take it into our maintenance. But it would be, I guess some people might look at it as an improvement, maybe 75% of them, and the other 25% might look at it as a nuisance. Anyway, but I think it would remain private if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you. Commissioner Palacier.
Just for clarification, the gray shaded area further, I guess that'd be to the north. What's the significance of that? Maybe it's something wrong on the map. I don't know, but mine is.
Yeah,
You see what I'm talking
I
about?
do. That's what I was.
It may be an easement layer.
That, I think that is a easement for a land conservancy, that particular piece of property. I know one of those two north of it were.
Okay, so we're definitely talking about the stuff that's within the orange circle.
Yes, sir.
Or orange square,
Yes,
whatever,
sir.
rectangle.
Is that, Mr. Grimes, is that the conservancy piece in the gray that's shaded there? You and I discussed that yesterday.
Which page of your packet are you looking at?
We're actually looking at the screen that's displayed. I thought that was visible to you guys. Okay. I believe that's the one you told me was in a conservancy, or maybe it's just north of that piece, but that was why it was shaded.
Yes, sir, that is correct. That's the piece that's owned by the Florida Nature Conservancy.
Okay, thank you. So there's no other significance other than that.
Well,
Is that the one?
at the Zoom, give me just one second. Let me do some
Page
research.
100
I'm
of
not
your
sure that's the
packet.
exact parcel. I need to find out that's Mr. Rundle.
Commissioner Palacier, were you done?
Yes,
For
yes,
the
for now.
comments?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
While they're looking at that,
Yeah, Commissioner Alexander, you're up.
thank you. Just from my experience, finding campgrounds for myself and my kids and an actual marina, they're getting fewer and fewer to find throughout the state of Florida. A lot of them in St. Johns County, Flagler County, they're all being bought up by developers and condos are being put in, and it's limiting the access to the common folk where you can't take a camper. They, you know, if you don't own a multi-million-dollar condo, you can't get in there and access these properties, and they're all being bought up. So it would be nice to have other options. If you go to try and find a campsite, you know, anywhere in Florida, you're looking at a 6-month window or a 6-month reservation. So I don't know. It sounds like you've got 75% of the voters on the street. I guess the property owner is here. I'd like to find out kind of where he's at in the negotiations and the permission from the other 5 property owners. If they're on the fence, he hasn't been able to communicate with them, and what their thoughts were.
Yes, sir. We're in the question with staff right now. Is there any other questions from, go ahead, Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Attorney Rich Commando, I have a question for you. On a private road, even though we have an easement, the people own out to the center of that road, or they own something of that road, correct?
Yes.
So I understand the 75-25. I get that fully. But our job is also look at the 25% of the people that did not sign for this to take place. And I'm concerned that the fact that we're going, if we move forward with a yay on this, that we're going to hurt those people's enjoyment of life. So my question to you is, can we even do that on a private road that the county really doesn't have any dog in the hunt, per se?
There's criteria that you have to make findings for as to whether or not you should allow what the applicant's requesting in the change in rezoning. There's many factors that I would imagine you're going to consider in that decision. So, but can you? Yes, I mean, you can make the zoning decision.
But when we make a zoning decision, it's going to put burden on a road that we don't own.
That's part of what you would consider.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any more questions for staff? All right, this is a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak on this subject, please come to the podium, for or against. Do we have any cards? Thank you. Andy Brulette.
Welcome to the 25%.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Andy Bruot. This is my wife, Rosalie.
Hi.
We're 123, 125, and 129 Smith Lane.
Okay, thank you.
Here we go again. During the last public hearing for the same proposal, Mr. Mara referred to me as an ongoing problem and that I was confused about what my rights were. When asked about my opposition to paving the road, he said he would pave around me. And when the Building and Planning Commission told him that the 20 landowners that had deeded access to the boat ramp should be given a key to his illegal gate, his response was, "It's my land." I've been told by Putnam County that this is a civil matter and that they wouldn't get involved. The same people that have now tolerated the 396 feet of the shared easement and the shared boat ramp to be blocked for 3 years now, making a mockery of the deeds in the lawsuit that protects them. And I'm referring to Putnam County Court Records, Book 399, pages 1743 through 47. In 1981, Bill and Rita Stanley, the owners of the fish camp, took the residents of Smith Lane to court in an attempt to overthrow the deeds and seize control of who uses the easement, the ramp, and when. They claimed that the residents of Smith Lane impeded their business by not allowing trucks, trailers, and boats to be parked on the edge of their properties. The judge not only ruled in favor of the 20 deeds, which clearly state free access to boat ramp located at the end of the road edge of Lake Crescent, but went on to say the entire easement, which spans from Paradise Shores Road to the waterfront, was there for the residents of Smith Lane, present, future, heirs, and guests to benefit and enjoy. He concluded by saying that anyone without a valid reason for violating this court order would be subject to face a judge, and mark me, that is soon to happen. Mr. Mara has very little regard for the residents of Smith Lane, and he'll have even less if he's given these permits. Furthermore, 130 Smith Lane does not meet the minimum zoning requirements to go from a Class C to a PUD, and asking to do so is just plain juvenile. It doesn't have the 5-acre minimum and is completely landlocked, meaning that a business cannot turn a profit on a road that is not privately owned, is shared or not, is privately owned, shared, or not funded using taxpayer money. And the idea of letting him pave the road may sound good to 75% of the residents, but I learned from past experience that once you give an individual control of something, they start telling you what you can and cannot do with it. In conclusion, I've lived on Smith Lane for more than 6 years now and own 3 properties along its shared easement and shared boat ramp. I'm tired of being pushed around by a newbie who thinks he can bend the rules or just ignore them altogether. If Putnam County will not uphold the laws and regulations on this, I'll go as high as my congressman as well as the judge. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else who would like to speak against this project? All right, is the applicant here and would like to speak?
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Robert Mara. As the owner of 130 Smith Lane, obviously I'm here to maybe rebut some of that. Well, I'm just going to go right back to the beginning, starting with the property before I'd even proposed anything. We put up a construction fence so I could do some repairs to the property, given the magnitude of overgrowth and everything that was being done on the property. State law, my insurance company determined that I put up a fence. It was from that time on that Mr. Brule and his wife had, aggressively you may put it, I like how he termed how I'm the guy who's making a mockery of all of this, excuse me for my cold. The fence around the property is temporary. There is a gate put up. We did do work to the bulkheads and to the piers, and a lot of cleaning of the property, overgrowth, removal of trailer loads of debris that have been dumped down here over time. So that now has been cleaned up. Well, but with the fence going up, it was very aggressive in its nature that I could not put up a fence. I could not block my roadway. I could not secure my property, and which I thought rather odd. And I did tell him, I said, send me a letter and we'll address it. I have never received a letter to address, and at such time, he has been, around the neighborhood doing whatever he thinks he has to do to, deny the project. At this point, I have no zoning at all for the property. So my goal was to obviously put up a few campers, have my residents on site, maintain the roadway for the neighborhood, do everything that was very proactive. I have, out of the requests that I did go around town with, or up and down the street, the few people that didn't sign were, one, either never responded to the letter sent, or just didn't understand. They understood they had no problem with the project, they had no problem with the road maintenance. They just didn't want to sign, which I understand. So that being said, I never confronted the Boulets with my goal, and I said I would pave around him because he's very hard to talk to, okay? So I just left him as listed, as I call, with prejudice. I'm not going to argue with him. I'm not going to get into it with him. It's not what I'm all about. My goal was to maintain the road, do something nice, bring it back to what it used to be. All the neighbors used to talk about going down to the fish camp, hanging out, going fishing, simple. That's all I want to do. Everything's temporary. Gates are temporary, fences are temporary.
So I got a question with that. So your gate and fence has been up for 3 years,
Yes.
but it's temporary? It's temporary?
Well, it's deemed right now under construction. I don't have a zoning.
I gotcha.
Okay. Now, the other thing with the right-of-way is that if anybody can come down onto the property to use the said right-of-way or launch a boat at a boat ramp that's probably about 70 years old, not really in good condition. Anything larger than a 17, 18-foot boat, probably going to have a tough time. You'll be in the mud.
So is that language truly in their deed, that it says that they have access to the boat
They
ramp?
do have access to the boat ramp, okay? And for what I understood from the original document, that it was to the boat ramp. You don't have tie-up services. You can't leave your truck and trailer on the property. Everything has to be returned to your residence. Okay, so I have no problem with that. If somebody wants to bring a kayak down, small boat, never had a problem. I've had neighbors use the boat ramp. But small boat is your limitations.
Okay.
So I also, what's to say that I have to maintain a boat ramp? What if I don't want a boat ramp on the property anymore?
I mean, I'm not your deed expert. I'm just
Exactly.
asking the questions.
Yes, and the gate is locked. All my equipment, my valuables are on the property. That is to secure what I have, okay?
Understood. Commissioner Alexander, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question to you is, who's been maintaining the boat ramp?
Same boat ramp that's been there for as long as I can remember. So I don't,
What
when
I'm
you say
asking-
maintain it, I don't,
What I'm asking is do the other residents have any skin in the game? Do they use the boat ramp?
no one's used the boat ramp since I've been there. Like I said, except for
So have you done
a
any
few people
repair?
have requested to use it to launch small boats.
Okay. And is there a way to cordon off the boat ramp specifically from your property by extending your fence to
No,
appease the
it
neighbors?
goes right down the middle. So my roadway on my land, which is paved, dead ends at the boat ramp, which is right in the middle of the property.
Yeah, I think I see that. That's the dirt road that goes to the cove there. No, I was just trying to see if there was a solution so that the 5% or the 25%, there might be some way to satisfy them where they have unimpeded access to the boat ramp, if that's what the true issue is. So,
Yes.
No.
Yes, and again, everything that's there now, they're farm gates and they're wire fencing. It's temporary. But, they had words with me on one occasion, which was rather uncomfortable, that told me that I could not put up a fence, I could not put up a gate, and I did explain to them that it's still private property with, as he explained it to me, we have rights too. I said, you don't have rights too, there is a right of way. So they do not own it, and if people are going to use it, everybody is also going to have to be we're going to have to be duly insured. We can't
Right.
have people coming down, falling on the boat ramp, and
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm going with it. Everybody wants to be good neighbors and get along. So what I would like to see is some type of solution to help where the neighbors that feel like they are entitled, and they are entitled by deed to
Right.
have access to that during the construction, to make that more palatable to them, so you're not faced with the pushback. So is there,
I've been on site for,
I understand, but
most
we're
of
still here working on this 3 years later. So I would like to see if we can find some type of resolution so you, A, can move forward, and B, your neighbors can
Yep.
be satisfied.
absolutely, that's the master plan.
So, I don't know, could we schedule a meeting where they could get together and see what the goal is of the neighbors, if there's some solution, or do we need to make a decision on this today?
Well, this has been, come before us before,
Okay,
so,
well, it's my third meeting, so I'm.
yes, sir, I understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any
This
other
is actually
comments?
four
Yeah,
years. to the
I don't
date.
want to
This-
put the county at risk of litigation because, we're allowing something that's not legally viable. So I guess that would be a question for Mr. Commando as far as the points that Mr. Harvey brought up. I would love to see the project move forward, but again, I'm not going to put the county in danger, so that.
So do you have a question for Mr. Commando?
Rich, what are your thoughts on this?
You have to balance, as policymakers, a number of different kind of competing information that's provided to you. The staff recommendation is for denial because it doesn't meet your code. I don't know what was heard before the Planning and Zoning Committee as far as kind of what findings they made, but then you take that information and then you have to make a decision as to whether or not you believe it meets your code as far as an application to change the zoning or a rezoning application. So it could expose the county to liability if you make a decision that is contrary to your code.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Morrow, thank you again for coming today, and this is the second time you've heard my concerns about the 25% of the people who didn't. I was in the insurance business for a long time, and believe me, I understand that we want a fence and a gate. What concerns me is where this property is located and where this boat ramp is, down the center of your property. That requirement from an insurance company, if we approve this, is going to get more stringent, not less stringent. Let me assure you of that. I have major concerns that, maybe they didn't spell out that you couldn't stand on the shore and hold the boat, but I think that's implied when you launch a boat. I don't mean that ugly.
Right.
I just think that's implied that you can't expect the boat to go off out into the lake or the river and then call itself back home. That's ludicrous in my opinion. And I don't think you meant it that way. But again, I have to fall down on the fact that this is a private road. This is not owned by the county.
Correct.
We can't enforce things to happen on a private road that we don't have ownership on. Be like me coming on your property and saying, I want you to do this, this, and that. And you go, no, I've got property rights. You just said that, standing there. This commissioner is going to fall down on the fact that it does not meet our comprehensive plan and our development plan review, and staff recommended denial. So I'm going to fall down on that today. But I would encourage you to find a solution in the future, and I don't know what that solution could be, but this is an odd piece of property. Only heard about this one time in my career sitting up here, and it's the same piece that's come before me now twice. It doesn't happen all over the county like that. It doesn't. But maybe it was intended for it to be two different lots on the north and south side of that access. I don't know that answer.
Right.
But it sure is a mess down there. But us creating more traffic and it would be beautiful. I mean, I would tell you, having a place down there on the lake with RV lots would be beautiful. But we have no amenities down there. We don't have sewer. We don't have water. We have lots of limitations. And you have a piece of property cut in half with people who, now we can't enforce deeded access. We can't afford deeds. We can't enforce deeds. We can't do anything in that nature. But I think we'd just be exasperating the situation if we added more to it. Thank you, Mr. Marr. Thank you, Madam
Yep.
Chair.
Thank you. I got a question for staff, and then I'll recognize you, Commissioner Palacier. So just for clarity, what if this is denied today, what can they do with their property?
He has a few options. It would be allowed under the comprehensive plan, the future land use, to be a fish camp minus the owner's residence.
Okay.
He could rezone residential to build his residence and get rid of the fish camp.
Okay.
I don't know what responsibilities that puts on him to maintain the boat ramp for everybody else. I
Right.
don't know that that would be his issue or not. So he's got a few different avenues that he could go, but as of right now, something's got to happen with it. It can't remain C1.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Palacier, you're recognized.
Yes, I had a couple questions, and maybe I misunderstood something there. When the 5 residents or 5 property owners, when I heard the gentleman up here, and I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, he named off 3 property.
That he owns.
Okay, is that 3 of the 5 that he does not have the signature on? Is that how that's, or is there?
I did not acquire a signature.
He's saying if there's 5 people who did not sign,
Does
is
he
he
represent-
He is
3 of
one
the 5?
that it did not sign. I
Is-
did not approach him just due to the...
Is he 3 of those 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, there's technically just 2
Well,
of
I'm sorry, he'd be 1. I didn't count all 3
So
properties.
there's
I only
4
counted the one.
others. Okay.
So-
Go ahead. I guess, do you know the answer to that, Jennifer? Is it different than?
I assumed that he was 3 of the 5.
Okay.
But he's saying he's one of the 4.
I assumed there was 20 individual property owners on that road.
He's saying one of
I'm
the
trying to
4.
remember how we broke it down, but I think it was, I don't know if I considered that 1 or 3. I know there was 2 non-returns.
But we can go into that a little later. My other question was, if I understood you right, that everybody along that road has an access to that ramp that they can come in and launch their boat? And,
Just about everybody, correct.
okay. And then I heard you say it's behind a locked gate.
Yes.
That's not working.
Well, under Florida state law, it is under construction.
Okay.
When we did the bulkhead repairs.
Okay.
And, the new electrical services, and Florida Power and Light will be down there. They're going to be changing the poles down there too, so that's on them. But it was, as I deemed it to be, a construction site until I had a direction of where to go.
So when the construction site, this locked gate's going to be done away with, when the construction is
Absolutely.
completed?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
And my other question or concern was, you talked about paving the road, is that correct?
That is correct.
The displacement of that water coming off that road, how's that going to affect the neighbors and those people up and down it?
Well, of most of these swales, I have been maintaining. We've been digging them out. We've been helping the other neighbors get the grading proper. Some of the houses are extremely low in comparison to the road height, so we've been cutting down the swales for the road to properly drain. Now, the road does need, of course, another cap put on it to get it level again. So I've been, backing off until I can get a direction on which way we're going here. But all the road maintenance, the road grader, I have that. I usually make passes up and down the street to keep it level. But it's in definite need of additional, sand, clay mix to elevate it some more. But those swales, all the way down through my property, all the piping, everything is in perfect running condition. The water flows extremely well. It sheds off the roadway properly, or as fast as it can. So most of that's been addressed. I've taken care of most of that on the roadway.
I would think there'd need to be some engineering done to evaluate that, when it hits that hard surface, there's a lot more water. It doesn't have a chance to percolate. It's got to go somewhere. And there
It
should be
runs
some.
off into the swales, north and south, right?
Okay, but can it process it in a heavy rainstorm that we have here?
Oh, yes, and it has been, yeah.
And
Yeah.
be done well? I'd like to see some,
So all of that water comes down to the end of the street, right through the middle of my property. So that drainage ditch and the 22-inch pipes are installed under the roadway, and that water will flow, that pipe will be 80% and running continuously right to the lake. We've taken the one section down towards the lake and actually cut out a reservoir area to actually slow the water flow down a little bit, let it pool up a little bit.
So the water naturally wants to flow toward the river?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And what overflows on the roadway goes right down the boat ramp, and what doesn't go down the boat ramp is into my main swale to the lake. Yep.
Thank you. Commissioner Alexander, do you have a question for the applicant?
There, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Quick question for staff. If he doesn't move forward with the, or if it doesn't pass as an RV park, can this be sold off and rezoned for condos?
Anything's possible. I mean,
Just asking.
the restriction on the road being unpaved is kind of RV park specific. I mean, there's nothing saying that it couldn't, that case couldn't be presented by somebody else.
And Commissioner, that any type of change like that would have to come back before you. It couldn't happen just by right.
Right. Okay.
I don't know that
I'm just
condos would
asking what-
necessarily, because there's not public water or sewer. So, I mean, there would be that restriction on the density that could be allowed out there, but
Thank you, Mr. Marr.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's back to the board. What's your pleasure?
Madam Chair, I move that we uphold the staff recommendation and deny this application.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I believe I'm going to second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Palacier. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. We have 3-2 vote. Motion to deny passes. Type 1 subdivision, going on to Beverly's Crossing, Resolution 2025-002.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is, as you mentioned, PSA 24000002 for MD Smith & Sons, the Beverly Crossing Type 1 subdivision. As mentioned before, the location is at the intersection of East Peniel Road and Peniel Church Road in Palatka. The 911 addresses will be assigned to each of the proposed lots once the final plat is approved.
Penile.
Penile, sorry.
Thank you.
The subject parcel is approximately 14.4 acres in size with a future land use of urban reserve. The residential density requirement is 2 units per acre due to the lack of centralized water and/or sanitary sewer. This is met by, as the proposed density is 1.1 units per acre. The property was rezoned to Residential 1 via Ordinance 2021-031. All of the proposed lots will be of sufficient size to meet the zoning density requirements. Here you can see the aerial of the property, the zoning, the future land use, and of course, finally, the plat. All its many pages. The lands affected by the plat are within the Urban Reserve Future Land Use category, are adjacent to and accessed by a paved road, and are not within the Military Restriction Operation Zone. The plat adheres to all regulations for its current zoning district, as well as regulations for the Future Land Use category. The request is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of Putnam County Comprehensive Plan, is compatible with the surrounding zoning and uses, and is consistent with the requirements of the Putnam County Land Development Code. Staff recommends approval for the request for the preliminary and final plat approval for the plat of the Beverly's Crossing subdivision, resulting in a 16-lot subdivision. In their December 11th, 2024 meeting, the Putnam County Planning Commission voted unanimous approval for the request for preliminary and final plat approval for the Beverly's Crossing subdivision, resulting in a 16-lot residential subdivision. Any questions?
Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question. Can you go back to the slide? Didn't you say that one house per acre?
Yes, sir. It is one house per parcel. The total density would be 1.1 units per acre, just because it isn't, it's 16 houses, but it's 16 parcels, but it's approximately 14 acres.
Okay, so basically what you're asking for today is lot 1 through 15 is going to be 0.75 acres, so 3/4 of an acre, correct?
Correct.
And lot 16 will be 1.52. So one lot out of 16 will be big and the rest of them will be small.
Correct.
Okay. But that kind of flies in the face of our ordinance, correct? Because we're talking about 1 per acre.
The ordinance was for residential 1 zoning, which has a zoning requirement of 1/2 acre per parcel.
Okay. So it's a little bit better than our ordinance.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
All right. Any other commissioners have comments? Commissioner Palatka, do you have questions?
Will access to all these homes be off of the Penile Church Road?
Yes, sir.
Every one of them?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Following up on Commissioner Palasier's just question, will they all have individual driveways that are mandated off of that? So we're going to have culverts for 16 lots going down there?
Yes, sir.
Going to be a lot of culverts packing that road. I mean, and the water that we just saw out there in that area. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to speak for or against this item? Thank you, clerk. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your name. Is it Fauzi? Fauzi. Asaga, Dr. Asaga. Yes, please.
I just have questions about the layout.
You have
There's
to,
a large-
I'm sorry, Doctor.
I'm sorry. I'm Dr. Fauzi Alsaga.
And your address?
Address is 248 Penile Church Road.
Thank you.
So I just have questions about the large creek and the pond that's on the lot. Is there, is that going to be filled in, or is that, I haven't actually seen the layout.
Staff, can you pull up the layout, please?
I will have to defer to the applicant on this one. They did not make mention of it yet.
You don't have a layout?
I have the...
An aerial view would be fine, I think. That's the,
I don't see a layout.
the
can you zoom in a little bit? Or no, that's not the way it works, huh?
I don't see it.
I don't see a pond.
Oh, yeah.
So where are you referring to the pond at?
There's
wish I
kind
could-
of there's a creek that runs behind my property and kind of originates there, and there's a pond that drains into that creek. It would probably be, I could show you on a map, if we could pull up a
We're
map.
all up here trying to touch the
No, we won't.
monitor, but it's not doing us any good.
Is it there at the bottom end of the property, that little?
I see a creek. When you come off from the red road on, red line on the left, that looks like a creek. I'm not sure.
I think Mud Lake drains into a pond on the property. And the pond drains into a creek that's pretty extensive, and there's a ravine that goes down behind my property in a decent-sized creek. I'm just curious, what happens with all that water flow?
Yeah, no, we had serious issues with Mud Lake flooding in this last hurricane. Okay. Any other comments or questions? We'll ask that to the applicant when he comes
I have another
up.
question. That also pertains to the drainage of wastewater and sewage. So I'm just curious how that's going to work.
They
I
would
know-
all be on septic, is that correct?
So septic and well?
Yes, septic and well.
I don't know if this is the appropriate place for these questions, but I'm just curious what kind of septic system they're going to use. Because
I
there's
would
all new
imagine-
codes for, these nutrient,
Reducing.
these complicated nutrient systems. Because there's a pretty important watershed that surrounds us, that big creek that dumps into a swamp, that dumps into the St. John's. So I'm
Madam Chair, may I take a second to address that?
Please.
Okay, so well and septic permitting and regulations are monitored by the Florida Department of Health, which has a seat at our Development Review Committee table whenever this plat was reviewed prior to bringing it for public hearings. It's also important to note that within Florida statutes, it mandates that the minimum lot size for new lots that are serviced by well and septic are half an acre. So the plat is adhering to and is in greater in line with statutes because they're going to be a minimum 3/4 acre lots. Those septic systems, I believe, are going to be the new ATU systems, which are essentially miniature package plants. They refine the affluent after it comes from the house before it goes into a drain field to permeate into the ground, as all of the other properties around this subdivision would do. I think that might clarify for the well and septic or the wastewater sewer specific question.
Yeah, because my understanding is anything over 1.01 acres, you can use whatever kind of, whatever meets code, but there's a different code below that. So that's that nutrient, enhanced nutrient reducing system. So you're saying that they are going to be using that system?
It's a specific septic system that is a private on-site septic system, but it has greater nutrient reduction capabilities than your standard septic systems that were in place prior to, I want to say, July of 2022.
Okay, well that
And you're
answers
saying
that.
these lots would qualify for that and would have to do that
They would
because
have-
of their lot size?
They would have to use the more efficient nutrient breakdown systems.
Okay.
Yeah, my goal is not to obstruct the development. I just want to make sure that this water system that is behind my home is not going to be full of wastewater,
Yes, sir, I understand.
But so the only other question I have is pertaining to that pond and the
And the flood and the
yeah,
water
yeah, I'm
runoff.
just curious where all that water flows.
Okay,
If that's going to be filled in, or is that going to remain?
all right. Well, we will ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Is the applicant available?
Madam Chair, just to kind of relieve some of his, the Water Management District also has a seat at the DRC table. A lot of times they will come through, and if that pond or any that was to be filled in, that'd have to be through a Water Management District permit. That's nothing that county staff or anything would authorize.
So are there delineated wetlands on this property?
There does appear to be as mentioned before, the ravine that has a little river going through it, which constitutes wetlands. However, as you can see in I don't have one on here, they were insignificant enough that they would not be interfered with by any development, as they are literally just that small stream, and there is more than enough space on each parcel that it would be very easy for any development to happen with the minimum 25-foot buffer away from the stream.
So the development's not happening where the,
Correct.
where this, in the future, I'd like to see that overlaid, if you will, with the actual development plan, if we can overlay it with some kind of a wetland map or something like that. I don't see a wetland. I see the flood zone. The wetland looks just like the flood zone. I mean, I don't see any difference in the mapping, unless it's just because of the way it's color coded. I don't know. Okay.
So we're saying that it's,
They're saying that there are no homes that will be built within that area.
okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak before or against? For or against, not before. For or against. All right. Closing the public hearing. Any,
Is the applicant here?
is the applicant here? Would they like to speak? No, sir. All right. Coming back to the board, we'll close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
I will move for approval of Resolution 2025-02.
We have a motion on the floor to approve Resolution 2025-002.
A second.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
Good morning again. For the record, Jennifer Casella, Planning and Development Services. Next case is REZ 24-000010. Thomas and Laurie Leonard with agent Jennifer Wilson are requesting a zoning map amendment from Agriculture Estate and R1 to Residential 1 R1 on a 6.74 acre parcel located at 126 Lake Como Point Road in Pomona Park to make the lands consistent, have reduced setbacks, and uniform requirements. The property owners would like to build a new residential single-family home utilizing the requirements and regulations of the Residential 1 R1 zoning designation. According to the NWI wetlands layer and the FEMA flood zone layer on the GIS reference map, the lands do appear to contain wetlands and are located within FEMA flood zone A, which is a special flood hazard area. The AE zoning district maintains a front setback of 40 feet. The sides and rear are 20 feet, a required lot width of 150 feet, and a lot area requirement of 43,560 square feet. The R1 zoning district maintains a front setback of 25 feet, 10 feet on the sides and the rear. 10 feet on the sides and 20 feet in the rear, a required lot width of 100 feet, and a lot area requirement of 15,000 square feet. Waterfront setbacks for either zoning district is 50 feet, and the vegetated wetland buffer for either zoning district is a minimum of 25 feet. Should the applicant's request be approved, the parcel will be eligible for building permits to construct a single-family residence, adhering to the regulations for the Residential 1 R1 zoning district. Additional considerations may be requested by the property owner for approvals of variances or special use permits as needed. Your aerial view, future land use, zoning, flood zone, wetlands. Staff recommends approval of the request to amend the zoning map from Agricultural Estate and Residential 1 R1 to Residential 1 R1 as the proposed amendment is consistent with the adopted goals, objectives, application. Questions?
Questions for staff? Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a homestead on this property now?
A homestead?
A home at all?
There is a home on there now, yes.
Okay, will that be torn down and then rebuilt on?
I believe so, but I'm going to defer to the applicant or the applicant's agent on that.
The reason I'm saying that most of that property appears to be in the lake or in water of somewhat, so even though it's 6-point-something acres, there doesn't appear to be a whole lot of usable land there. And that was my question, was what was going to happen if there's already a homestead on the property.
I'm not sure if they would build it in the area that isn't affected by the wetlands. Either way, the whole property is in the flood zone, so they would have to take those considerations into account when they do their building, which would be obviously regulated by the building department. And the setbacks and for the waterfront and the wetlands would be enforced by zoning when they were to present those.
Thank you.
And they could also, like I said, if they needed to request maybe a variance to get reduced setbacks, reduced waterfront setback, that would be an avenue that they could go as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Jennifer, when we look at these, obviously, to Commissioner Harvey's point, the majority of this property is underwater. It is while it's deeded, that it's 6.74, do we look at what is usable acres? Is that part of what of our formula, or is it simply what is deeded?
It's, I mean, we do take into account how much area is there. We're just trying to make the lands more uniform. I mean, that's kind of the process. It's split down the middle. It's completely split zoning because it was two separate parcels at one point in time.
Okay, thank you for saying that.
The requirements are more closely looked at when they would go through zoning approval for any new construction.
Okay. All right, any other questions for staff? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor? This is a public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to speak in favor or against this project? Yes, ma'am. Hi. Okay, come on out.
Just to answer a couple of your questions, yes, there is a home there. This is a property that the owner has looked at for years. He and his family have visited this area. He grew up on this lake with his grandparents. Finally, this lot became available, and he had to have it. There is a home there now. His intent is to tear down that home and build a new one that he and his family for generations will be able to use and enjoy. And we understand the wetland. He already has a FEMA flood certificate on the property for the flood zone. We're aware of the wetland setbacks. We're a civil engineer, so we're representing him on that. Understand the buffers and everything, but that's the intent of the rezoning, is to make it uniform. When he bought it, it was two different zonings. Hopefully now, with making it all residential, we can kind of square up some of those setbacks and things.
Okay, are there any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Sure. Appreciate it. All right. Last call for public comment. All right, closing the public hearing. Bring it back to the board. What's the pleasure?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve REZ 24-00010 Thomas and Lori Leonard, changing the zoning from Ag Estates to R1 to make it consistent with all the property there.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Proper motion, proper second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I know we have some people here that have a particular subject that they want to speak about, but we do have, these things are time certain, and they were advertised for time certain, so we have to go through these first, so I apologize that you're having to wait. Public Works, public hearing, request to vacate a portion of West Bay Street, Resolution 2025-003. Who's taking that?
I'll take that one. Yes, ma'am. The request was put forth to you guys to move this to a public hearing to approve or deny the closing of a portion of West Bay Street. There's not a active road in there at the current time. The landowner does own both sides of the undeveloped roadway. So we've checked with our departments. No department had a use for the roadway. So, of course, there's no roadway there. It's just an easement that goes through this gentleman's property that owns both sides. So we'd recommend approval of the closure of that portion of East Bay Street.
And it doesn't look like it impedes anybody's access in the area.
No, ma'am. There's a block on each side of it that they
Right.
would normally use to access their homes.
And this is our second time seeing it.
Yes, ma'am. Your last time was just to approve to bring it to you guys as a public hearing, and we're here today to do the finalization of it.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to speak for or against this item? Thank you. Ms. Sharon Johnson. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sharon Johnson. I
Good
live
morning.
at 205 Austin Ryan Drive in Kingsland, Georgia, but I'm here to represent my father, Nathaniel Harris.
Yes.
He's the owner of the properties.
Okay.
He lives at 121 North Beach Street in Palatka, Florida.
Okay.
Okay. He owns two duplexes that are off of West Bay Street. The West Bay Street intersects with Browning Avenue and also Sycamore Avenue, which is not really shown on the map right now. It's really Woodson's. Just want to go on the record to say that he needs the area between Browning Avenue and Sycamore Avenue to remain open so that his tenants will have access to their units. One side of the units face Browning, the other side face West Bay Street. So we need to have that portion of West Bay Street to remain open so that the tenants can access their apartments. Florida Power and Light can access the utilities. The health department can go back and do their water testing at the pump house. Anything past Sycamore, which is part of Mr. Lewis's, we're okay with that. But we just want to go on record to say we need the area between Browning Avenue and Sycamore Avenue to remain open.
And it looks like staff's trying to pull that up on a map right now.
It's actually
I don't
trees
see it.
there now. It's not really a road there right now.
Okay.
Okay. So how does that help with the access if there's not a road there?
We just want to make sure he doesn't go past Sycamore Avenue.
Okay.
Just want to go on
just
record.
That's a marking point. She's not
Yeah.
saying that that's usable road. So it looks like Browning and Sycamore run at least north-south on here.
Yeah.
And what she's asking to keep open is the east-west portion.
Okay. All right.
I'm thoroughly confused.
I'm way out in left field.
I'm sorry.
Sycamore.
Yeah, we don't have a Sycamore identified.
I don't see a sycamore on my map.
All right.
The pink is what I own, and I'm trying to close this portion here.
Yeah, because it's not coming up on GIS.
Sycamore over to Brown. Their property is, we have two duplexes.
I'm sorry, we have to, yeah. Give us just a second. I'll have to bring you up to the podium. Right, Sycamore,
Yes, ma'am.
Browning.
100%. We're good.
I don't think so.
It doesn't look like, based on our map, that that's what he's trying to interfere with
We
any of
just want to
that.
go on record to make sure that part stays open.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, may I ask?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Harvey?
So, thank you, Madam Chair. So you don't mind that this closing happens, that piece
No,
that they're
that's
requesting?
between two properties that he owns, so.
All right, because I got
Yeah.
thoroughly confused there for
Okay.
just a second, but I think we're all back on the same
Yes.
page now. So you don't mind this being done?
No.
You just don't want anything else to be done?
Right.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Okay, good, thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Perry Lewis. Would you like your map back, Mr. Lewis? Thank you for sharing. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Perry Lewis, and I have the properties at 500 Browning Avenue, and I have no intentions of closing or disrupting or removing the trees along from Sycamore down to Browning Lane. Excuse me. They're actually not even using that part of the 50-foot roadway. They're actually over on their lawn because there's so many trees there. So they do have, if they wanted to widen that roadway there, they could. But I don't want to interfere, and I don't want to close that down whatsoever.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any other public comment? All right. Coming back to the board.
Madam Chair, I move approval of resolution number 2025-003, a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Putnam County, Florida, vacating a portion of West Bay Street in Palatka in accordance with Section 336.09 Florida statute, closing and abandonment of roads authority, and Section 336.12 Florida statute, closing and abandonment of roads, termination of easement, conveyance of fee.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
You do. A second.
Seconded by Commissioner Palacier. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion passes. We're going to be moving into our consent agenda. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are conveniently placed at the meeting room entrance and should be submitted prior to the meeting to the deputy clerk, who sits to the right of the podium. Consent agenda items A through V. Commissioner Alexander, do you wish to pull any consent agenda items?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Mr. Palasier?
I have none.
Commissioner Newbold?
I have none.
Commissioner Harvey?
I have none, ma'am.
And I have none either.
Madam Chair, I move approval for consent agenda items A through V.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Was I supposed to call for public comment before we did that? I feel like I'm out of order.
We can keep
On
going.
consent agenda items?
Traditionally, we do public comment on consent agenda, but I don't think you had any based on the cards that were turned in.
All right, I'll still ask publicly. Are there anybody who would like to speak on consent agenda items A through V? All right, hearing none. We have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. All right. I'm going to take a point of privilege and move the code enforcement down. We have new business to go to. Public Works, Height Road, culvert repair.
Morning, Madam Chair. Any
Morning.
questions I can answer for Height Road cross culvert repair?
Commissioners?
We need it.
Yeah, I mean, Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
Thank you. You know, I've been in this area most of my life, and I will tell you that this area needs to be fixed majorly. We'll debate the other ones, but I believe this one's got to get fixed. There's only really one way in, one way out in some cases. So this is part of our job, is to make sure people have access on public roads.
We are waiting on a quote from Atlantic Pipe Services on fixing the culverts to do a spin cast to extend the life of those culverts, and then that'll give us an idea of what to do and what construction company to go for. We'll probably have to go out to bid to fix the undermining of the culverts as well and reestablish the head walls on that culvert.
All right.
So
We know
we'll
when the
have a
last
future
time-
cost.
When was the last time that was repaired? Do we know?
I don't have a
Probably.
clue.
I don't ever remember it being done.
No, but the pipe that feeds that cross culvert from 2 Mile Creek, the flashing boards have failed, and that pipe has dropped 4 feet, which has caused the problem for it to undermine the entire road.
And just for public record, if this is not repaired, we will have citizens who cannot get into the
Cannot get
property.
out.
This is a one-way in, one-way out
Correct.
road.
Right,
All right.
right.
Commissioner Alexander, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for those watching at home, can you just give them a brief overview of what has occurred and what we're doing? Because
Sure.
some people aren't aware.
So coming off of 2 Mile Creek to go towards the river, it has to go under Height Road. There's a pipe that had the flashing boards that made a pond for a gentleman that has cattle out there. Those flashing boards failed, which then caused the 48-inch pipe to drop 4 feet. The water then undermined the spillway that was on each side of the cross culvert and piped itself under the spillway, which has then created a void under the roadway and under the culverts, which you can already see on Height Road. There's a crack on one side where it has started to fail, and so we need to do a flowable fill to fix that. And we've talked about a cost estimate. Until we actually remove one lane and dig down to where the void is, it's hard to give you a cost estimate because it might take 3 truckloads, it might take 12.
Okay.
We just don't know how big that is, but we do know that the void that has gone through is now coming out not in the creek on the other side, it is coming out of the side of the ditch because it has just found its own way.
Good. Okay, I wanted to highlight the fact that our Public Works Department was being proactive and taking action on something that could have been dangerous or detrimental, because that could have failed at any time, and one of our constituents could have had an accident there, we could have lost it, and they could have lost access to their home, and you guys have taken the initiative through your engineering to take action on it before we had a catastrophic
And I
failure.
appreciate Commissioner Pellis here. We were just out doing a ride looking at things and we saw it, and then he and I both saw it at the same time, like, uh-oh.
Yeah, I
we
just
got a
wanted to
problem.
highlight that. And thank you, Commissioner Pelletier.
And so you're seeking recommendation for approval to move forward with
Correct.
locating construction companies for the flow fill repair?
Correct.
All right. Is there anybody who'd like to speak for or against this item? All right. Back to the board.
Madam Chair, I propose we move forward and allow them to have the ability to go out and seek the approval for construction companies for flow fill repair.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. We're on to Public Works Roddy Road Bridge demolition or repair. This is something that's been ongoing. We had to close this down. I'll start, sorry. We had to close this down because we were receiving complaints from the citizens that it was corroding, basically, and we went out and looked at it, and it was, and we have some good pictures in here, and then that was
Was it April, May-ish?
of last year, and so we took a vote at that time with the prior commission to close it for about 6 months and see whether or not we wanted to go forward or not, and what kind of feedback we would get from the citizens. I can tell you, I've gotten a few phone calls of people who want it back open, and I've also received a few emails and comments of people who say that it cuts down the traffic and actually drug activity in the area. So it's actually in worse condition than it was. I see
Right.
that you added a photo here on page 446 where.
Yeah, in December, we went out just to check on things, and the road has actually failed. There are 2 large potholes that have actually exposed the piping that goes underneath the bridge. And, I mean, I could stand in it almost up to my waist in
Wow.
one of the holes that has failed and eroded the.
So we made the right call by closing it down
Correct.
for sure. And what we have 3 options that are in front of you today. Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's just hypothetically say we're going to not fix this. Are we going to dig those pipes up and dig the material up and let the creek run free again?
That's one option, is to
Okay.
remove it completely and reestablish 2 Mile Creek. Another option is if you want to just wait and leave the concrete barricades up and decide if you want to fix it later on down the road, you can
You
do
know,
that as well.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think we need to make the decision today, a permanent decision. And are we going to add a cul-de-sac on both sides of that, or just put a dead end or a turnaround, or how would we address that? Or is anybody even? Because I'm
Really, all
Commissioner
we've talked about is putting up guardrails instead of the concrete barricades. Just, it's a better eye appeal than the
Right.
concrete barricades.
Because my phone has not rung off the hook about this. I've had one call since we shut it down, or prior to shutting it down. No one's called since that time. And I do believe, not all the roads in that area go across that creek, so only 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken, go across that creek. So we'll just have one access to cross it. But when we talk about a creek, it's more than a creek. I mean, when it's got water in it, it's
And it
almost-
goes from there to the one we were just discussing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So it's always been, you could park a school bus down in there and
Yes, you
hardly
could.
see it if you wanted to.
So the 3 options we have in front of us are replacement of the crossing for an estimated cost of $750, slip lining of pipes for an estimated cost of $300,000, or elimination of crossing. My question, and Commissioner Pelletier, I'll get to you in just a second. Slip lining, if we were to go down that, how long would the life expectancy be if we slip lined it?
If we slip line it, well, if they can get the alignment back on the pipes, that's the question. It can be slip lined if the pipes can be realigned properly when they do it. If so, you could probably get another 30 years out of it, depending on what's going on underneath it.
Okay.
And then reestablish the roadway up top.
Okay. And so that, your estimate, you think would include reestablishing the roadway, or is it simply for the slip lining?
No, that's reestablishing.
All right. Commissioner Pelletier, you're recognized.
I've only had one call about the road since it's been shut down, but my concern I would like to have some input from fire, EMS, and law enforcement as to, does this affect them and their transaction of their business in that area? I'd like to have some input from them before.
I think
Make a
JR
decision.
stepped out to to take care of a citizen that was here. However, we have had internal staff conversations, and it did not have an impact to emergency services response at all.
All right. Are there any other questions for staff? All right, are there any public comments regarding this item? This is the Roddy Road Bridge demolition or repair. All right, hearing none, it comes back to the board. Yes.
Madam Chair, I'm real big on saving if it's salvageable. I know it's a big cost right now. I personally, I think I'd like to leave it alone, just not do anything with it for now until we may see at a later date. I know it's a big financial deal, and I certainly don't want to sail off into that today, but I think we could leave it alone at no cost, and it doesn't hurt anything, and then maybe at a later date, if we see we have the money or that there is a possible need that we need to reestablish it, then we could. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Regarding water and flooding, is that impeding any kind of flooding because it's deteriorated? I know that we had some major storm events.
Right now, it's not really impeding much, but keep in mind, the longer it stays there unrepaired, that there is a possibility that it could fail, and then it will be impeding the waterway.
Yeah, because all of that debris would be down in the waterway.
Correct.
Right.
And it may be harder, the longer it sits as well, those pipes are becoming more and more misaligned, so it may be harder, may not even have the option of slip lining if it continues with the settling that's going on.
Okay, that's fair. Are you done, Commissioner? Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think that's one of the concerns I have is, we shut it down last year to take a look at this. Luckily, we haven't had the monsoon rains, but that area still had a lot of wet going on, everything trying to get to the river. My concern is that the $30,000 cost now to clean it up will be a lot more when we have to clean it up. And we found that to be true. And we just were thanking you for being proactive. I think we did let it sit for a while. But I think now it's time to do something more permanent and be done with this.
So right now you're in favor of option 3?
I am.
Okay. Commissioner Newell, did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, if we let it sit, it's just going to be more expensive to repair later. I'd say we either fix it now or let it go, and I would be in favor of option 3.
All right. All right, gentlemen, I need a decision.
All right. I make a motion that we approve option 3, elimination of the crossing altogether.
All right, we have a motion
Second.
for option 3 and a second from Commissioner Harvey. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Yay.
Okay, 4-1, motion passes. Thank you. All right, last on our new business is Public Works FDOT grant scrap application recommendations. They're in your packet on page 448. They've asked us to prioritize in what order that we have, that we would like to see.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
The reason I listed East River Road as the first one is we are currently working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We're waiting on their environmental study. We were hoping for it to be finished this month, but should be finished by the end of February. Once that's done, we'll be able to go out to bid on establishing a water line on East River Road from Putnam County Boulevard to County Road 207A. During that construction, we would then like to seek funding through grants and or through the Board of County Commissioners to run a sewer line down the same road, same distance, to capture that. And then U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has approved us for 19.6 miles of water, so we're going to come all the way up 207A to encapsulate that whole area. So the reason I bring East River Road first is hopefully we'll have both of those lines installed so that in 2029, if approved by DOT, then we will get East River Road resurfaced. We don't want to resurface before we install lines.
Thank you for your comments, and that is something that's very important as we see that area grow. But additionally, as commissioners, we need to remember this. We're applying for grant funding for 2029. This is not grant funding for today. And that's just the way this program works with FDOT. So East River Road is your priority. Is there a reason why you put West River Road second?
West River Road, you're going to see the growth that's coming out there with some proposals. We also have the harbor, St. John's Harbor, that we may be installing more water lines to increase that capacity out there. The other reason that I have Brown's Landing Road on there, if you go from the curve right there by the golf course all the way to the boat ramp, you'll see that the road is starting to unravel, especially at the Crown. And any of us that are on the river know how busy Brown's Landing Road is
Right.
during the warmer months.
Well, personally, I would like to see Lundy Road, Brown's Landing Road moved ahead of West River Road. West River Road's not in terrible condition, and I know we're talking 4 years out and lots of traffic out there, but I would almost like to flip-flop your 2 and 3. Commissioner Harvey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to say how important we have acronyms for everything in our business, and I have one called CAA, Commissioners Against Acronyms. But this is SCOP, the Small County Outreach Program, the Small County Rural Assistance Program, SIGPED, I don't know the wording on that, and the TRIP program. These are FDOT projects. Just to give you an idea, these are funds that DOT helps rural communities out with. And right now we don't have a match requirement on that because we are a fiscally constrained county still. So these help us out. So what does that mean to the average people in the audience and watching us on TV today? Well, take County Road 315 from 100 to 20, from 20 to 310, 310 to Marion County line, total of almost $13 million that did not come from the pocketbook of your tax dollars,
Local.
period. If we had to fix those roads, I don't know when we would get to that, or I don't know if we'd ever pave another road in Putnam County, because you're talking $13 million. Where does that money come from? We don't control a lot of that money to begin with. So I really applaud DOT in helping small counties, and we really advocate in the halls of Tallahassee to our legislators that this is important for small rural counties. Again, we don't have that kind of funds. So I support our chairwoman who wants to move those projects forward, and I applaud DOT for even having the application process open. It's a competitive process, and they do look at it, but if we make our case good enough, we should be able to get some funding for something here. So I support our chairwoman and her recommendation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Palatka, you're recognized.
Same thing. I think your order of importance is definitely the way it needs to go, without doubt.
All right.
Just wanted to give you
Thank you.
support there.
Any other comments? All right, so everybody, it sounds like we're in favor of moving Lundy Road and then West River Road. So 1, 3, 2.
Yep.
Okay. All right, everybody wave in support?
Wave in support.
All right, I think that's it. We're going to take a 3-minute recess, and then we'll At this point, we're going to have public comment on miscellaneous item. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board, if everybody could have their seat. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit your time to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are conveniently placed at the meeting room entrance and should be submitted prior to the meeting to the deputy clerk who sits to the right of the podium. Mr. Tim Hotellen.
Howdy, howdy. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Tim Hotelling, 105 Riverside Way, San Mateo. And I'm here to give you insight and
Mr. Hotellen, I
opportunities
know
to...
who you are, but if you'll give your name and address. I didn't hear you give your address. Did you give your address? Oh, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Caught you.
Caught me.
Anyhow,
That is fine.
talking about the hurricane and the hurricane cleanup and just, my dogs walk me every day, so I have time to think about it and past piles of hurricane cleanup and trying to be patient, trying to understand, because the neighbors ask me questions, what the standards are. From my understanding with FEMA, you don't have to cut it into the 4-foot stuff, so it makes a difference on what kind of piles you can have versus Waste Pro versus hurricane. Information's sort of important. On the 9th of October, Hurricane Milton came through. There wasn't a lot. On the 26th of October, the county posted a notation saying we need to know where to go to get the stuff. I posted it and encouraged everybody else to post it. There was no acknowledgement of the posting. There was no further information. And I just puttered along. I called a couple times to make inquiries, just simple inquiries. Are your out-of-state contractors still out here? Are they working? When can I expect, or when can the neighbors expect this to happen? That was a little difficult. And it was one of the problems you new commissioners may not be aware of, but every time somebody calls a commissioner, then the commissioner calls these guys, and these guys tend to put it on a priority and upset schedules, which seemed to be my experience, because I just asked when. I didn't say it wasn't any complaint. I took my own three wagon loads of storm to the dump, so I wasn't, it was neighbors. And the last one, we were down end of December, mid-December, same question. Is it still happening? You still guys got out there. Are they picking it up? When can my neighborhood expect it? And I called and got told a few things, including that it's too difficult to pull out a map and tell the citizens when and where we're going on and when they can expect it. Communications are really a wonderful thing, especially when it makes a difference as to what you expect the citizens to do in preparation of these piles.
Thank you for your comments.
Question?
Brenda Copley.
I brought you some goodies.
Good morning. You didn't bring chocolate chip cookies?
Yeah, I was looking for cookies.
Yeah, we were looking for cookies.
No cookies. My name is Brenda Copley. I live at 756 National Forest Road, Fort McCoy. Actually, we're down Salt Springs area,
Yes,
more
ma'am.
than that, on the river. And in the interest of time, I'm going to read to you, I have it included in your little packets.
Yes, ma'am.
The Fort Gates property owners are present today in support of the reopening of the historical Fort Gates Ferry. We hope that favorable decisions are made for timely repair and enhancement of the ferry services. Few things demonstrate the identity of a community like historical landmarks, and few things attract others to those communities to visit, invest, or establish permanent residence than a history that elicits feelings of nostalgia, respect, and comfort. Those are reasons why property owners have invested in the Fort Gates community. Many of us have made that investment for more than 30 years, others only recently. Regardless of the amount of time we have enjoyed the beauty and inspiration of the area, we have an appreciation for its colorful and impressive history and hope that the leaders of Putnam County have those feelings for this historical area as well. As consideration is made to reopen the ferry services, it is inevitable that travel conditions on Forest Road 29 are in the forefront of a successful venture and investment for Putnam County. Road conditions will be critical to safe and frequent use of the ferry for local residents and companies, as well as an attraction for visitors seeking enjoyment of historical places. The economies of East and West Putnam County will have the potential to be favorably impacted by the reopening of the ferry. The number of property owners has increased exponentially in the Fort Gates community in the last 5 years. Forest Road 29 is traveled often by residents and by the public for recreation and hunting enjoyment. We have serious concerns regarding safe and efficient access to residents and visitors for emergency services and law enforcement services. I have shared pictures that reflect as clearly as possible the current conditions of Forest Road 29, which is a shameful example of irresponsibility on behalf of the Forestry Service to maintain safe travel conditions. One must simply drive the distance to fully appreciate what we are faced with on a daily basis just to get our mail from Salt Springs, not to mention daily trips for shopping or other local services and access to our properties by waste management and other vendors necessary for property maintenance. Just as important, if not more so, is the fact that Forest Road is an evacuation route should a forest fire occur. The ferry can evacuate most all of the residents of the area in one trip across without vehicles. We never want to happen here what is currently happening in California. One of our residents who owns the Palmetto is an attorney in Orlando and worked with Stacy Manning, the Putnam County attorney. He has committed to working with whomever is the designated attorney to achieve an agreeable resolution for our concerns. Forest Road 29 has a long and convoluted history for maintenance and safe travel conditions, and at one time was reported to be one of the most dangerous and inconvenient roads to travel in Putnam County. As the number of property owners and residents have increased, we request that the pieces of the puzzle surrounding the ferry and conditions on Forest Road 29 be re-examined and resolved, and that our commissioners fight for the property owners of Fort Gates to achieve that resolution. And when I talk about fighting, I'm talking about the Forestry Service, because they have been most uncooperative, and their attitude towards people who own property there has been very negative. They always say, we don't care about the property owners, we only care about the trees and the animals. Well, someone recently said to me, when those animals start paying your salary, I'll listen to you. But that property has been privately owned for more than 200 years, and it has a great history. And so we're just kind of getting our foot in the door here to try to get these pieces of the puzzle looked at again, and hope that somehow, whether it needs to be done in a private workshop setting or whatever, that we have had meetings in Ocala with Congressman Walz's office. Cynthia Miller there has worked with me to submit our concerns to the USDA in Washington. She is expecting a response by the 20th. And, we're very, very intent on trying to get these things resolved because we have a lot of concerns about things.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Sapp.
Kevin Sapp, live in National Forest Road 41, Fort McCoy, but I live in the forest. We've had trouble with our roads out there for quite some time. This ain't my first time here. We can't get nothing done. The trash trucks now are really tearing it up. I called Daniel Carr over to Waste Management to see if he could fix them. He said he couldn't do nothing about it. We just need a little something done to them. Some little graded, maybe some clay, something done. If you could do like Marion County, that would be a big help. They don't put their dump trucks or nothing, no dual wheel trucks over there on their property. They got bins, dumpster bins to put all their trash in, so they don't collect trash out there to mess up the roads. That would be a big help out there. Keep them dual wheels off of the sand, that would be a big, big help. And I don't see why it couldn't be done. They do it. They don't have to fix the roads because they don't tear them up.
So do you think the residents would be okay with not having their trash picked up in front of their house?
I'm sure they're tearing up the roads. We got to put it in four-wheel drive to get out. I don't know how many people I pull out.
Okay.
Does anyone know who handles Marion County's waste? What company is that does that?
I don't know. I don't know that we know that. Mr. Tilton, do you know? Okay. Okay. All right.
Mr. Sapp, how many residents are out there that we're talking about?
There's a list in Ms. Copley's package.
On my road, on Cemetery, I rode and counted the other day, there's 64 houses on my road. Now, that's not counting on 66, and I think that's 88D on the other side. I mean, we call it the P-patch, but there's a pile of people in there also.
Okay. I was just wondering about the logistics of transporting individuals' garbage to a certain central pickup point.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of pushback we might receive if we tried to do that. I know it sounds like a great idea, but we have to base it on what the majority wants to do out there.
Yeah. Well, Marion County roads out there, the dirt roads are fine. They don't get tore up by the trash truck. Them dual wheels tear up dirt pretty bad.
Oh, I agree.
Commissioner Alexander, and others that don't know, that is a very strange area out there, and not the people are strange.
I was wondering to clarify that.
They live in Putnam County, but
Uh-huh.
they have a Fort McCoy, Marion County address, and if they have a landline phone, it has like a prefix. So figure that one. It's kind of crazy how everything lays out
We're in
there.
purgatory out there.
I'm glad that's your district.
Ms. Copley, did you do this research? This is all the residents in Putnam County that you found that live in that? Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for clarifying.
I'm not near them.
Okay.
They're
got
two
it.
separate areas.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
I'm
you.
not near them.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Richard Blanchett.
Richard Blanchett, 711 National Forest Road, 75G. The 911 address is Palatka, Florida, although we are in Salt Springs, right on the area of Salt Springs. I am probably the newest resident of the Fort Gates community, and I'm here to ask you to review and make recommendations for reinstituting the Fort Gates Ferry. The points that I would like to make on that is that commercial vehicles providing services to Salt Springs and Fort McCoy need to travel around Palatka or Astor, State Roads 40 or State Roads 20, adding 90 miles and 2 hours of round-trip service to provide things like plumbing services to my residents. I have had to pay an additional $85 per trip to obtain quality services only available from the Crescent City area. The Ocala providers refused to deliver to my place because of the roads, but we're not here to talk about the roads. You can't do very much about the roads. It's National Forest Service. The ferry would allow commercial providers to plan for a more efficient delivery schedule, saving both gasoline and maintenance costs on their vehicles. The ferry would open up commercial tourist business in the Salt Springs Recreational Facility and the surrounding community. The ferry would enable me to more readily enjoy the St. Augustine City and surrounding beaches. The shopping trips to Crescent City would be more enjoyable than shopping trips to Ocala. Commercial enterprises related to sport fishing and tourism may be attracted to develop projects inducing tourists to visit the historic site of the Black Bear Scenic Byway, which connects at the western juncture of the Fort Gates Ferry. The ferry would also allow Salt Springs Recreational Facility to be enjoyed by residents on the eastern side of the St. Johns River and become much more than it is now a weekend attraction. I personally would love to see a Waffle House or a Denny's in the Salt Springs Square. And that's not going to happen until you start the ball rolling. Your endorsement of the Fort Gates Ferry is critical to the state and federal funding for both the ferry and the eventual asphalt paving of National Forest Road 729, National Forest Road 29. Well, I was all in one breath.
You did great.
In reviewing your agenda for today, I am reminded that you, the Putnam County Commissioner, are the basic unit of our democracy. I am a 30-year Navy veteran, and I have been there and I have done that. I was off the coast of Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis on board a helicopter assault ship ready to go ashore. I was a Vietnamese-speaking hospital corpsman advisor in Vietnam during the Vietnamese conflict. I retired as a lieutenant commander, Medical Service Corps, as a healthcare administrator. And I am ready to retire and enjoy the good life that my property on the shores of the St. Johns River can provide me. But I'm not getting that full enjoyment, principally because the ferry is not operational. As the basic unit of our federal government, of our United States of America government, you are what is called as a self-correcting mechanism. It is you, the Board of County Commissioners for Putnam County, to correct mistakes and errors that have occurred in the past. And you have done that impressively today. This is my first meeting with the Putnam County Board of Commissioners, and I am so delighted to be here and to see the quality of the individuals that we have on this board. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And although this is not an agenda item for this meeting, let's see, what have I got here? I've modified these notes several times during the meeting because everything's changed. You guys are great. Yes, the road. The problem that I see with the road is the director that is director of the Forest Service, who has a personal, emotional agenda that he is sticking to no matter what, even though it is in strong defiance of the federal government regulations.
Yes, sir.
There are 3 regulations in different handbooks, which makes it complicated to understand, that direct that deputy or that director of the Forest Service to do his job. If I could just go over them quite quickly.
Mr. Blanchett, I've been very gracious in your time, and I would appreciate it if you could wrap this up.
I'm sorry, Leota.
Yes.
I do not get my hearing aids until January the 30th.
Travis, don't you try to use the same thing, buddy. I was just saying, if you could wrap it up, I've been very gracious with your time.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate and respect your position.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
All right, Travis Roberts, you're up next.
That was good.
Yeah, thank you for your service, Mr. Blanchett. I hated to interrupt you at all. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's kind of hard to follow that one. It's
I
Travis
know,
Roberts.
sir, you're right.
Travis Roberts, 110 Yancey Circle, Satsuma, Florida, 32189.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you, the commissioners, to set up a special workshop just for Fort Gates. The comment's been made to me in the past that we only get one call, that was by other county commissioners. There's over 2,000 emails that I've gotten in the past 2 weeks. We need to open this. If a fire happens in Marion County, those people are going to fry. There's no way to get out to 19 once that road is shut down. In the past, Dale Jones, oh, and by the way, people have said there's no captain down at Fort Gates since Richard Hackett died. Richard Hackett was never the captain. It's been Dale Jones. He is half owner. Now he is full owner. Okay, just so everybody gets that clear. But I'd like to ask for a special workshop so we can get in there and talk. I've been asking since September if they're going to renew the contract for the lease for Fort Gates. We have one with the state till 2044, but with Putnam County, we don't have a contract on the landing. There's nothing going on right now. Fort Gates, this is the first time in 252 years that Fort Gates has been shut down without a contract. So I'd like to see if we can get a special workshop ASAP so we can get the ball rolling, because we've gone for 7 years now with no answers, except for we're going to look into it. Palatka Daily, we're going to have it open by November every year. Hasn't happened. And I appreciate everything you guys have done, and I know that it's not you guys, so I don't want to get into a pissing match here, for lack of a better term. We don't need that. What we need is solutions. And if we get the special workshop, and also if you guys can go ahead and renew the contract for Fort Gates. It's been down for 7 years. There's been no business coming through there. So, and it is a great asset for the county. Like they say, it's going to bring in business from Salt Springs. Just to the south end of Putnam County, that's with the Oaks Golf Course, the restaurants there that we have. It'll bring in tax dollars. And it also helps when EMS and them can't get across the river. They're going to have to go all the way around and then travel down that road that's, 7-9 miles long. Going across the ferry, they're there in 9 minutes. The same with the sheriff's department. If they have to get there, 6 sheriffs on duty there in the county. If they're in south end of Putnam, it's an easy jump right across the river. But that's why I'd like to ask you guys, just to renew the contract. Let's get on with it. And, if we've got to raise funds, that's the other thing. I am perfectly capable with 18.4 million readers and listeners. If we need to raise some money, we've done it to help get the barge redone. I've done it for every year, and Ms. Leotti, you've donated to the kids at Christmas time. We raise 50,000 toys for the kids in Putnam County every year. We don't ask for nothing. But if there's help, we can get it. These people are willing to do it. I'm willing to do it. I'll stand out for 30 hours and cook ribs. Terry Suggs has had my ribs. He'll tell you. So, anyways, that's about it. And, if you guys can, when will we know something? That's what I'd like to know.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. That's all the speaker cards I have for now. We can keep them coming. Here we go. Bruce Haynes, you are recognized to speak.
My name is Bruce Haynes. I live at 764 Road 75G, Salt Springs. I'm 77 years old. I've been coming to that area hunting since I was 10, so I know a little bit about the area. It has developed immensely. There used to be 2 houses, I think, when I used to hunt there, and those were both hunting cabins.
Oops, that might be yours, Mr. Haynes.
It must be one of my girlfriends.
Good for you.
She'll call right back.
Just one of the girlfriends?
Go ahead.
All my girlfriends are married. That's my problem.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cool. You might want to say that on TV.
Yeah, let's just keep
They're
going.
my girlfriends. I'm not their boyfriend.
Okay.
Okay, let's get back to business.
Yes, sir.
First of all, the ferry. The ferry was running for years and years and years. Even back as when I was a kid hunting, the damn ferry was running. So we need to get that fixed. A lot of people, I've seen people get on the ferry, ride across the river, pay money both ways, and then ride back just where they have been on the ferry. I swear to God that happens. Second of all, the road got so bad that they even moved our mailboxes. Now, instead of going up the road to a mile at the most, we got to drive 7 miles one way to get our mail on a daily basis if we want our mail that often. I don't know who we get to fix that, but we need to get that fixed. Thirdly, Putnam County took care of our road for years and years. I mean, they've done their share, I admit that. But we also pay taxes. Then all of a sudden, Putnam County decided, wait a minute, we are maintaining a road we don't own. So forestry, here's your damn road, fix it. They are the worst. I mean, if you want to call somebody to complain, they don't even want to talk to you, or they don't want to listen or talk. I don't know the dollars and cents of it, but when they grade our road, it takes 1 day for the grader, and at the same time they roll it. That's another thing. Anyway, so I don't know what that cost for 1 day of grading and 1 day of rolling, $2,000 or $3,000 but we get our road graded twice a year. Come on now. And I would like to see that maybe Putnam County could reevaluate their situation on grading our road and split the time with the forestry. Both of them do it once a year, both of them. That would cut us back to 3 months, every 3 months. That's a hell of a lot better than every 6 months. Okay? And also, when the forestry did fix our road, they brought in the cheapest slime rock loaded with flint that you could buy and let her rip. We had over 30 flat tires within a period of 2 weeks because they didn't roll the flint down. I'm pretty pissed about that. It cost me 3 tires. That's all I have to say.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Haynes.
And
you didn't say that was all you had to say.
I got a question.
Okay.
Not a statement. When are we going to find out something about all of this?
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
as I've explained to those folks out there, those are the forestry roads. They own them, and it doesn't matter if Mr. X had millions of dollars and he wants to pave them at no cost to no one. It cannot be done without the approval of the Forest Service. Is it possible that we could send a letter on behalf of the County Commission asking for some type of help to those folks out there and maybe more repetitious grading or something like that? Is it something that we could ask a letter? They've got a new manager out there, and it might be met with more open arms, some help for these folks because they certainly need it. Back when I was on the board before, this came up about paving Forest Road 29, which is the ferry road, which runs from Salt Springs right down to the ferry. And they had a lot of animal activist folks that came out and said the scrub jay and the black indigo, and there was a variety of animals that they claimed that this affected. However, on Forest Road 77, in the same Ocala National Forest, from the Marion County line around to Hog Valley to 314, it is purely blacktop road. And it stops at the Putnam County line. So if it's okay over there, why wouldn't it be okay over here? That's my 2 cents on that issue.
So are you proposing a letter, or did you want to go and speak to somebody, like sit down, have a meeting with them, or you want us to send them?
Either or, maybe open it with a letter that, that we're in support of some sort of, or could we get some sort of help? We, help these folks somehow or another. Like I said, it's their road and we're at their mercy, but, these people need some help somehow if there's anything we can possibly do. And certainly it's always better to go with roses than vinegar.
Well, one thing I want to say is Putnam County was not, I wasn't a part of this commission then, but I did work for State Representative Bobby Payne's office at the time, and Putnam County did not make the decision to stop maintaining the roads. That was fully on the Forestry Service. The Forestry Service said we will no longer engage in a maintenance agreement with us. that is what happened. So that was not a decision by the county. That was a decision by the Forestry Service, and they are in full control of the roads. And like Ms. Copley said, they do, I have sat in meetings before previously where they say, we don't care about the people, we care about the roads, and we care about the animals. And that's exactly the words that they have said. Now, to Commissioner Palasier's point, there is new leadership, I guess, at the Forestry Service. It sounds like they've been working with Ms. Cynthia, with Congressman Walt's office. I know that office is changing, so there might be another opportunity there too. But I mean, I don't have a problem with the commission sending a letter, but I'd like to hear from the other commissioners. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes, ma'am. I fully agree with what Mr. Pelletier says and what you're saying. Also, the fact of the matter is that we've got retired, excuse my language, aged vets at the end of this road that have provided a service to our country. And if the federal government, that road is their responsibility, I think they're obligated to provide you guys with a means of egress to your property. So in our letter, perhaps we should address the fact that we do have former veterans living at the end of this road, and they're asking for some help.
Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
Madam Chair, I'm in support of sending the letter to, I'm in support of sending the letter, as Commissioner Palasier said. It was very disheartening to see Carl Bauer stand right over there and basically point his finger at all of us. This room was packed. I don't care about you. I don't care about that. These are our Forest Service roads, and that's how it landed. And even to our point, Mr. Suggs travels to Washington, D.C., and the Secretary of Interior tells him, Congress doesn't tell me what to do. It's a shame. It's a shame what's been done out there. And you know, my stepmother lives out on Lake Delancey. If they didn't want y'all there, they should have bought y'all out and kicked y'all out of the forest. But they didn't do that. And it's a shame that they allow you to live there and then don't provide services. And then blame it on us that we have to do it. And again, you heard me earlier in the program say we can't maintain something we don't own. We just can't do it. And it's sad. It's really sad that happened. And I do support the ferry being open. I am one of those guys, Mr. Haynes. I hunted that area. I grew up in the forest. My best friend was Kevin Thompson. His mama owned the Frontier Dance Hall. When I was 17 years old, life was good for me out there, okay? So you understand that. But I did drive the ferry across and pay the fee to get right back across because I thought it was pretty cool to take my old truck and do that. And it was really cool to be out in the middle of the river, riding on a barge with your old pickup truck going, they don't get no better than this right here. And I'm going to tell you, I really do appreciate it. So I support Commissioner Palasier's effort, and any letter we can send that can start another conversation, we should be able to do that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner, while you're speaking, can you speak about what we did at the legislative delegation meeting about where we're asking for on Port Gates Ferry? Well, before we move forward, if you want to go ahead, since you brought up that subject.
Remind me a little.
Okay.
Okay.
We, so at the legislative delegation meeting on January 9th, this commission asked for letters of support from both State Representative Judson Sapp and from Senator Leek. And what we asked for was for them to support us in a grant that we've applied for to the state to receive funding to fix the other side of the landing at Fort Gates Ferry. So we have asked for that, and that grant application goes in by the end of the month. And both the state representative and the state senator said that they would have those letters to us by the end of the week. Commissioner Newbold, you're recognized.
Well, I support whether it's a letter or a meeting with the Forest Service. You know, we have unique challenges here. I think this is a fight worth fighting. I just pile on with the rest of you with support, but I'd like to see, I hope we're not back here, you know, a year and a half from now beating the same horse. It would be nice to see some action, and hopefully the grant process will go quickly and we can partner to at least get the landing fixed and then push to a creative solution to some roads on the other side. So I'm in support as well.
Okay. Before I can't, if you already spoke, I can't, I'm sorry. If we have anybody else in the audience that wants to speak on public comment that I do not have a card from, I see some other people in the audience. So we have to go back to public comment. State your name and address for the record.
Sue Holland, 115 Creekside Road, Paradise Point area.
Good morning.
Just like in church, people ask for prayer, but you never get a praise. I come back with praises to all of you. Thank you. Thank you. We have great sewage down there. The water lines were put in. Our roads are paved. We had a little issue with water going up, or sewer consumption fee went up, and I came in and they immediately got on it and readjusted the fees. And on behalf of 108 homes, thank you. We're very happy. So there was 3 other gentlemen that were here at the time when it all started 4 years ago that are not here, but I do thank them as well.
Thank you for coming in and saying that. I think that was just some mistake, but we appreciate you bringing that
Thank
to our
you.
attention.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
It's nice to hear.
Yep. Do we have any other public comments to come before the commission? All right. Yes, sir.
My name is George Mosley. I reside at 1177 West Keystone Avenue, Keystone Heights.
Yes, sir.
I've performed a good bit of work out in Salt Springs. I've used Forest Road 62 many, many times. I want to set up a GoFundMe account to get some repairs made on my truck. It has beat the hell out of my truck every time I go down that road. The road needs to be repaired and maintained via the forestry department, and I would recommend strongly whatever force that y'all can bring to bear with the forestry department. I would urge y'all to do so to get this. And it's not only ingress and egress for contractors, residents. You also do have to consider emergency vehicles, that is law enforcement, fire, rescue, and access to the ferry in and of itself. So it's got to be addressed one way or the other. That's all I have to say right now.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. All right. Any other public comment? Hi.
Hello. Joy Berkey, 709 National Forest Road, 75G.
Yes, ma'am.
Palatka, Florida. So 2 members of my neighborhood have asked me to speak on things that they forgot to mention.
No
so
problem.
I'll mention them, but if you need clarification, I'm sure they can help you with that. So the first order of business is Milton Simpson is the Secretary of Agriculture.
Wilton, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And he controls the funding for the forestry, USDA?
Not that one.
No, that's, he controls state funding, not national.
Okay,
Not
so, but he might be a good contact, is what the point was, to be part of the solution for this.
All right.
And the other point was that Bruce Haynes said that years ago, the state of Florida offered to pay money for the road, and that Putnam County turned it away, was the belief. So he just wanted to know more information about that, or if you had any history on it.
I don't have any history of that.
Wasn't correct.
I don't know of that. Neither does administration. I'm not sure what he's talking about.
I can explain if you want.
Sir, I can't have you speaking from the seat. I apologize.
So I can't say anything more than what my neighbors have already said today, but we do need a solution. And we're willing to be part of that, whatever that looks like. But we do need a solution, and we need it soon.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Very good. Did you have any comments?
I did.
Go ahead.
This is the federal government's the federal government, and they have many, many branches in different areas, but it's a shame that they will give money away to those in our country who are, some of them by no fault of their own, less fortunate and fall on hard times, and give and give and give and give, and then we ship money overseas to everybody else in the sun, and here we have taxpayers in our own country who are doing the right thing, and they're just asking for a little help. They're not asking for the world, just a little help.
Sounds like you have a little bit of a lift, Commissioner.
Pardon?
Sounds like you have some lift. You have some work to do.
I'm going to do my best.
Yes, sir, I have no doubt you will.
That was it.
Yes.
I'm done.
Madam Chair, Mr. Haynes, you are right. You did hear about a paved road out there. It was about in 2013 and 14 when I got here. What had happened is DOT was looking at, Florida Department of Transportation was looking at paving that road 77 down for the Black Bear Highway, seen it. But that was just a thought. And then when they found out that we did not have an agreement and we didn't own the road, that money went away. That project went away. So I just want to clarify that with you.
It wasn't that we returned the money.
No,
You never
we
got
didn't
that
return
far in the
anything.
process.
Right.
All right.
They just couldn't check the box that we owned anything.
All right. So we need to move on with our meeting. Last call for public comment. All right. Mr. Roberts, I haven't let anybody else come back up, so please make it quick.
Okay, I am. I think some recognition needs to be made to Mr. Reynolds. As you guys know, I own a newspaper and radio station. I got a call a while back from a gentleman. He was going into hospice, and he was going to be going in the hospital. He was dying. His last dying wish was that he could get married. They had him on life support. I called up Mr. Reynolds, and I said, what can you do to do this? Is there anything that can be done? Mr. Reynolds went out of his way, went to the facility, took care of the paperwork, got them in there, made the man's dreams come true. His wife called me up last night. He did pass away, and she wanted me to thank you and Putnam County for allowing Mr. Reynolds to go over there and make their dreams come true before he passed away.
Very good.
That's
Thank
all
you.
I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
All right, we're going to move into code enforcements.
Finally.
We got the agenda. I was being gracious and trying to move public comment ahead of several things that we have to cover. Thank you all for attending today's meeting.
Matt.
I watched that, I fell down.
You take mine too, yeah. I don't truly need them if you, I want to see them come back.
In just a second, we'll clear out the room.
Thank you. Good. Is there anybody here?
I'm about to find out.
Okay.
All right, moving into code enforcement. Before our officer speaks, do we have anybody here for code enforcement cases? Anybody in the audience for code enforcement cases? Okay. Sir, if you'll come forward and let us know what code enforcement case you are, and we can hear you first. C. Could you start with C? Okay.
Page 420 in your packet.
Page 420 in your packet. Thank you.
We're not changing the order? Nobody's here?
Yes, if you'll start with C, we have somebody from, on case 2015-00540.
Okay, this is 116 Water Oak Road. Property owner's name, as I say, is Ray. It was an unsafe structure on Crill premises. Property owner has recently purchased the property. Property is now compliant. The owner is requesting a fine reduction. If the board approves, we recommend the fine reduced to be paid within 90 days.
Okay. Sir, do you have anything you would like to say? No? Okay. We have a recommendation from the board.
Madam Chair, I move approval of staff recommendation to reduce the fines from the hard cost of $2,532 if paid in 90 days on case number 2015-00540.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion passes. All right, if you'll start back with, back in order.
Okay, this is code case 2004-00424 at 268 Lakeview Court. Property owner's name, Samuel Revocable Living Trust. It was an unsafe structure. There is a tax surplus received. Original fine was $54,012. The tax surplus received is $63.97. Property owner has recently purchased the property. Property is now compliant, and the owner is requesting a fine reduction. Requesting approval of the fine reduction. If it is approved to use the tax surplus of $63.97, which would bring the total down to $2,772.03. If the board approves, recommend the fine be paid within 90 days.
Madam Chair, on case number 2004-00424, staff recommendation, the action is to take 2836 if paid within 90 days and use 6397 surplus that we have on file.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, code case 2015-00370 is 112 Hayes Drive. Owner's name is Gerald D. Cullen. It is an unsafe structure and care of premises. The original fine amount was $58,693.50. The property has recently been purchased and is now compliant. Owner is requesting a fine reduction. If the board approves, we recommend the fine reduced to be paid within 90 days.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept staff recommendation of code case 2015-00370 for $2,015 if paid in 90 days.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And just for the motion passes, and just for record, I want everybody listening that when we do these fine reductions, the whole purpose is to bring those properties back into good condition, and this is one way that we can do that and still have a viable property. Thank you. Go ahead.
Code case 2015-00592, 112 South Maryland Avenue. Property owners is Newport Holding LLC. This violation was care of premises. The original fine amount was $72,221.35. We have tax surplus received of $29,961.68. The property owner has recently purchased the property. Property is now compliant and requested a fine reduction. We request approval for the fine reduction and to use the tax surplus received for the $29,961, which would pay off the total fine reduction. If the board approves, we recommend the fine reduction to be paid with the tax surplus funds received.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve codes case number 2015-00592 using the tax surplus of $29,961.68 to satisfy our enforcement of $2,514.
We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
All right, code case 2017-00394, 109 Gilgad Road. Property owner's name is Hernandez Alberto Madrano. The violation was unsafe structure and care of premises. Original fine amount was $54,006.17. Total cost of enforcement action was $1,408. The property owners recently purchased the property, is now compliant. The owner is requesting a fine reduction. The board approves, we recommend reduced fine to be paid within 90 days.
Madam Chair, on codes case 2017-00394, I move approval of the $1,408 if paid within 90 days.
We have a motion on the floor.
Second again.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, code case 2019-00222 is 112 South Maryland Avenue. Owner's name, Newport Holding LLC. The violation is unsafe structure. Original fine amount was $39,752. Tax surplus received $29,961.68. Total enforcement action was $2,014. The property owner has recently purchased property, is now compliant. The owner is requesting a fine reduction. We are requesting the approval for the fine reduction and requesting the approval to use tax surplus received of $29,961.68, which would pay off the total fine reduction. If the total approves, we recommend the reduced fine to be paid by the tax surplus funds received.
Madam Chair, I have a question on this. In the past, haven't we been able to, there seems to be two liens on the same property. And sometimes this board has taken under consideration to drop the second one, only because two liens that were running simultaneous. I'm not advocating a position one way or the other, but I'm saying it has been some of the position in the past. There's no precedent set that we look at the second claim. So
Yes.
that's just my
We
question.
did them separately because they were two different violations. It was just
But we're all in compliance now, and
completely.
and that's what we're really after. And we are after, as Commissioner Wilkinson, our chair, has mentioned, we're actually after compliance.
Correct.
And making the taxpayer whole in this situation. So I'm fine either way. Madam Chair, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. Codes case 2019-00222, accepting staff recommendations of paying the $2,014 out of the surplus of $29,961.68, largely because the applicant's not here and representing themselves. So that's my motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the final one is not a code enforcement. There is no code enforcement case, there's no code violation on this parcel. This is a request for a parcel lien request because of that. Parcel 05-1024-4925-0060-0340. Mr. Brown with Elite Enterprises LLC contacted staff regarding a parcel lien release for this parcel number 250924407508100110. He purchased this property on May 8th, 2024 at a tax deed sale. Property does not have a code case against it. He has provided the code case numbers 2010-00706 and 2020-00363. These two cases are for
Another parcel.
which still are owned by the same previous owner, Tarpon 4 LLC. Case 2020-363 is not compliant. Fines are still running. The total fines and fees as of today's date are $30,937.50. Case 2010-00706 is not compliant, and the fines are still running on that parcel as well. Total fines and fees for that case today is $114,987.65. Although the tax deed sale disclaimer states that the buyer is responsible for conducting their own research to determine if there are any liens or other encumbrances that will survive the tax deed sale, the property owner did not do a lien search before purchasing the property and is now requesting a partial lien release for his parcel only.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This kind of concerns me on the partial releases, and for our new commissioners, this is leverage we hold. Whether we like it or not, it's properties throughout the county that an owner might have, and they come before us with a partial lien release, hoping that they could get relief on one parcel to sell, but they still have codes violations on their other parcels. The whole idea is for us to clean up the county.
Correct.
And that's been the compliance, and you've heard that mentioned a few times this morning already. So I'm not in favor of a partial lien release just for those reasons. We do attach to all properties by the owner, but our deal is we want it cleaned up.
Right.
And if the other ones are still now if there's no attempt to clean up, I have a problem. But it appears that the fines are still running on the other parcels and nothing's taking place. So I'm not in favor of a partial lien release.
So in this case, it was, one of the properties was purchased by another entity who is now asking for.
Will ever be done, so the parcel, if we don't give a partial lien release, this property
If the
can never
buyer
be.
would have paid attention and done his due diligence, he would have seen that and made a deal with the owner of the property to do something differently.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Well, this is one of those cases where, at the end of the day, you're still going to have a property that doesn't get back on the tax, well, it could potentially just go back into tax deed, because if they can't do anything with it, they're just going to not pay their taxes. So it's one of those hard situations. What's the pleasure of the board? Did you make a motion?
I have not, but I will. Madam Chair, I move that we deny the partial lien lease request for parcel number 25-09-24-4075-0810-0110.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second for discussion? All right, motion dies for lack of a second, but somebody better make another motion.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Partial lien release request for parcel 05-1024-4927-0060-0340. Any further discussion? All right.
Wait, on a vote?
Yeah, bring it for a vote.
Call the question.
Yes.
I said call the question.
Call for question. Okay.
Were you requiring a roll call vote?
Nope, go ahead. All in favor, say aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, 4-1, motion passes. Thank you. Sorry, I had a brain fart.
Getting late in this meeting.
Yeah, exactly, I'm getting tired. Moving on to appointments. District 1,
I have none at this time.
District 3,
I have none at this time.
District 4,
I have none at this time.
District 5.
I have none of this.
Neither does District 2. All right. Clerk of Courts, comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd like to just take a quick moment to thank you and the rest of the board as well as staff for acknowledging the need to improve the county's financial system, the ERP system, and including that on the legislative priorities. I think that will be a tremendous step forward for the county, and it will make things much more efficient. So I just wanted to thank y'all for that, and thank y'all for bringing that to the legislative delegation last week. And that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Mr. Suggs, you have a comment?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to echo that as well. As you know, Mr. Reynolds and I have been talking about this for a little while. So the only thing moving forward now would be the opportunity for his staff and our staff to sit down and start looking at the modules of what it is that the software that we're looking at. So we'll know exactly what our cost is moving forward and what we'll be looking forward to updating our system with. So Mr. Reynolds, whenever you're ready to schedule that meeting, let me know, sir. Thank you.
Do you have any other, is that all your comments, or do you want me to come back to you?
Either way, Madam Chair, but no, I do have a few more.
Okay, I'll go on to county attorney and then come back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to, as we're talking about legislative priorities, remind everyone that legislative session starts March 3rd. If you don't already have it on your calendar, Rural County Days will be March 19th and 20th. So if you plan on going for the evening reception and staying over, make sure that you have a hotel room. Other than that, I have no other report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And did I read that they're going to potentially have a special session?
I read that yesterday. So January 27th is scheduled for a special session. My understanding is that'll deal with some immigration policies as it relates to funding some of the incoming President Trump's policies. And I read that there would also be some condo law issues that were going to be brought to the forefront.
Right. And we do have a special election coming up.
Yes.
All right, special county administrator.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that so much. First of all, just a couple of real quick things. Ms. Holland, thank you. I really appreciate that because they did. There was an error that was made. You brought it to their attention. They jumped on it really quick, so thank you for that. And to the gentleman here,
My brother served in the Vietnam conflict, so thank you so much for what you've done in your 30-year career, and God bless you. So thank you. The other comments, Madam Chair, is, as you know, we were working with the Army Corps, 19.6 miles of potable water lines in the East Palatka area. We had got delayed just a little bit. There was an oversight with us and the Corps. There was an environmental study that needed to be done. So instead of doing the environmental study on just like, for example, phase 1 of the 5 phases, we went ahead and did the environmental study on all 19.6 miles. And it's my understanding with Mr. Grimes that Mr. Butler with the Army Corps has said that everything is completed, everything's been approved. We're just waiting on some language to come back from the Army Corps to get our letter of approval. So hopefully real soon those 19.6 miles of potable water lines will start going in the ground in East Palatka. So I just want to give you an update on that. Also, the dredging and navigational project out of the barge port received notice from Josh Gabaton, who is our federal lobbyist in D.C., who does a phenomenal job for us up there. We got word and that our project has been included in both the House and the Senate side in their project. So now the next step that has been signed into by President Biden into the project is start pushing for funding of that project. So that's great news as well. So I just want to bring up speed on that. And one of the comments that was made here earlier today, and I didn't want to address it at the time because there's the right time to do things, and I think during comments, my comments now are the appropriate time. We do a lot of work. We got hit by a number of storms this year, back-to-back storms. Your staff does a great job prepping, getting ready for that, and then they do a great job on the follow-up. And yes, we've had some debris issues. As you know, the entire southeast got hit, so a lot of the resources were dedicated elsewhere. Our contractor's done as best they could. Our staff has put together a great link on our website to be able to call in those debris piles, and we've done a good job monitoring. But one thing that we can't do, and I just want my commissioners to understand, is we can't monitor Facebook postings for things like that. So I don't want to hold my staff accountable for missing something on Facebook. There's multiple avenues for which things are to be reported, and I do know that Mr. Grimes got some personal phone calls on those issues from the gentleman this morning, and took care of a lot of the issues. But once again, as much as we appreciate social media, we can't monitor and formulate our plan on social media. So again, that's really all I wanted to say this morning. But staff does a great job with doing the things that we do to support this community, support U5 and our citizens. So thank you all for a great meeting today, and that's all my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And also, when they're on, I had an issue this morning, too, that I had to reach out to Jay on, that I had received a phone call on regarding debris pickup. When it's on a state road, that's a different situation as well, because it's not necessarily the county's responsibility. State road, private roads, so just because you see a debris out there from the storm or yard debris, there are some restrictions that we have, and one of them is if it's on a state road, and like you said, on a private road. And if also Facebook is not subject to, or talk to me a little bit about public records on Facebook, the issues that we have with that.
It depends on what account the Facebook posting is on. If it's your own personal account, you are subject to the same records retention policies that are put out by the Division of Libraries or Library Sciences, the GS1. So whatever happens to somebody else's page or one of the community pages that is not under the purview of the county, you don't have a responsibility there. However, you do have to be mindful of the fact that be cautious about anything you post. There have been some ethics opinions which have said if an elected or appointed official who is subject to sunshine has posted something with the intent of getting information out to stimulate a discussion, that would be a sunshine law violation. So I advise all my clients, just be very conservative in kind of the information you put out there. It's always better to speak to somebody one-on-one.
Right. Okay, thank you. I wanted just to clear that up. I appreciate that. We are going to go into commissioner comments, and If you don't mind, Board, we'll start with Commissioner Alexander because he has a discussion and presentation he'd like to make.
I'm going to move to the podium.
All right.
I like that. I always wanted that to happen. Thank you.
Oh, where are my kids when I need them?
No, we're not going to give you the 3-minute timer, but now you're going to feel what it feels like to be on the other side of the podium.
Well, as long
That's
as,
what I got the other day during the legislative delegation.
And we appreciate you taking the lead on that too, Mr. Chairman. Briefly, I'm trying to pull up the original design.
Commissioner Palacier, Commissioner Alexander had something, so I let him go first since he has a presentation.
Oh, that's fine.
Is that
Or
up
no
now?
commissioner comments.
border.
No, not yet.
Okay.
I like the fact that you're making it from there. I do. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, thank you, Larry. First off, thank you, commissioners, for hearing me, staff. I really appreciate you guys, and I feel like we have a pretty cohesive team. We all may have a different vision of how to get there, but I think we all recognize where the end zone is. So, with that being said, I want to thank my predecessor, Terry Turner and Bobby Payne, as well as our previous commissioners for spearheading this project down at Dunn's Creek. Through negotiations with FDOT, we were able to secure this property. It was a former fish camp, and we are going to develop that into a park. And as you'll see, the preliminary, actually, these are the finalized drawings that have been approved. And I thought thought to myself, this is a great idea. I was on the river the other day, and I saw Mr. Suggs out on his dock, spoke to him for a bit, and headed on down here to check this out. So through the course of my navigation of the canal, as you can see at the bottom left hand of your screen, I had some concerns initially that I reached out to Mr. Commando on, and I went to see it for myself. The navigation and egress through the canal should be very nice, very easy. I think it is achievable. The question I have is here where the canal narrows, and any boats beyond that within that basin, this is going to be very congested, and you're going to have a very difficult time with any vessels 20 feet or larger. So the majority of the vessels that are sold today are going to be bay boats in the 23 to 25 area. So if you have an influx of 4 or 5 families, which I think we have 30-something parking lots currently, we're going to have an issue with congestion there, and any boats over that, that's going to be next to impossible to get them in and out of it. So while I was down there, I came up with the idea. What's that? Oh, here's a few pictures that I took. This is the proposed marina here. Some of the existing slips that will be demolished. Here is the narrow area that was discussed where we're going to have an issue.
And what do you, while you're on that photo, what do you think that width is?
I would say probably 30 feet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if you
I would
have
agree with that.
Yeah, typical beam on a boat's 8 to 10 feet. That's standard. So that doesn't give a lot of room for error for a novice boat driver. Your typical recreational boater may have some trouble there, especially with a single engine craft. You lack maneuverability without speed. So the slower you go, the less maneuverability you have. So if they're putting in and out, they may have some issues. There's the exit to the canal that Mr. Commando and I discussed. So what I wanted to talk to our commissioners about and hopefully get your backing, we have an existing wayside park on the south side where we have a rails to trail, and we have an FDOT wayside, basically a wayside park that they have maintained. This is the area looking down towards the ramp. As you can see, there's approximately a half a mile of available parking that we can use that's already maintained by FDOT. Skipping ahead. But what I would like to propose is adding an additional ramp here and working with FDOT and acquiring a lease for that property, or at least control of that property, where we could add a large boat ramp here for larger vessels that can't be accommodated by the area over there on the north side. We would be able to put a floating dock here where you could tie your boat off after launch, and you could exit out that way. And as you can see, all of this would be protected by the fenders that are existing there in Dunn's Creek. So it's very safe, very easy, and the majority of the work's already been done by the FDOT. Here is the proposed turnaround for the vessels before you deposit them in the water or launch them. And I guess that would be my final slide. So what I'm asking for today is the rest of the commissioners to get behind me and support this so we can do a preliminary study to see what might be involved with acquiring the property from FDOT, and also what additional funding we would have to develop that area by adding some asphalt, and if there are any grants available for a boat ramp. So it's my understanding that the majority of these boat ramps are paid for through grants from the state. So that would be my ask from you guys, to allow staff to provide a preliminary study and set forth on that task.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I have Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for,
You'll be next.
and Commissioner Alexander, I applaud you for two things. Number one, getting to that podium and speaking. I've always wanted us to do that from that area. I think it brings a little credibility, and they do that in Tallahassee very well. So when they present their bills and their projects, that's what they do, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity also to have the discussion about under the bridge. I mean, sometimes we have the discussion, it's not the right time to have the discussion, or a lower level person says, no, it's not going to happen. But no's not always an answer in government business. So finding someone that we can sit down. So I applaud you. I think it's also important to have two. Let me assure you that we need more boat ramps in the south end of the county. That's very evident, and we have a lot of need down there. We do have unused space there. There's no doubt about that. So if we could accommodate, if DOT would allow us to accommodate, I can see a beautiful boat ramp over here, and I can see another boat ramp over there, and everybody's happy, and we can accommodate. And it is, you're right, it's a safe harbor there.
For
it truly is.
minimal cost.
Yeah. So I support your endeavor. I support a letter from us. I support us giving you a wave in support to go out and bring something back to us to do that. So thank you, Commissioner Alexander, and thank you, Madam Chair. That's my comment.
Commissioner Newbold.
I appreciate the direction you're going to. I like it. I'm assuming this wouldn't change the direction of the existing north side boat ramp. Do you see any?
Not at all. I am not wanting to abandon that. That is a tremendous resource for that community, to have somewhere for the children to go and fish and give them something to do other than video games. You guys know what a big proponent I am of outdoor activities for our youth. So,
well, I'm behind you 100%. I've always looked at that space and thought it was just so underutilized. I'm surprised it's called a Wayside Park. I was down there not too long ago. There was a guy putting in I'll bet you $80,000, $100,000 boat. And right next to it were a collection of I don't even think they were homeless, but they were, I don't know how to describe them. There was quite a collection of visitors there who were in the morning.
your diplomacy is very...
Anyway, it was quite a show. I'm a little... I think the long-term lease is probably achievable. That long stretch of parking, it's going to be a bit, I hope we can achieve parking there, because if you can achieve parking there, I think it's a doable deal. I hope that can be done, and thanks for bringing this along. I think it's a great project.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Commissioner Pelletier.
Commissioner Alexander, from the pictures you've shown here, I think this is absolutely no-brainer. I mean, it looks like a great place, and the parking, all like as you said, all the way down that road on each side. If DOT will sign off on it, I think it's a great thing. We should move forward and absolutely support this.
Thank you. I think that all of the commissioners on this board, none of us came from money. We all earned what we have, and we all want to get the most bang for our buck. And when we see an opportunity for an underutilized resource such as this, that if we can capitalize on it and provide something great for our community with a minimal expense, I think all of you would agree with it. So that's why I moved forward with it.
Well said, Commissioner. I do have a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am. I knew you would.
I know I went down there, JR took me down there. I got out of the vehicle and poked around a little bit. The water is definitely deep enough on the north side, and I do think it's wide enough for the smaller vessels. And I think it's going to be a great asset once we get that finished. But when I go to the other side, on the wayside where you're referring to, I notice there's a lot of flow from the water. So if you're putting a boat in right there, are we concerned about the current because that water moves pretty fast right there? You're a boater, so what is your thoughts on that?
Typically, the larger vessels will have twin engines, and you can mitigate any current with those. You have a lot more directional stability, and that will be your target focus for that boat ramp.
Okay. All right, very good. And then I also looked at the map, and there's some private ownership. So the only part that DOT really has is that strip of land where the old road is. That's the only, unless I've looked at something wrong, and then there's private ownership. Are you proposing that we're completely staying within that DOT portion?
Correct. Currently, yes, ma'am.
And how wide is that? That's not...
Well, there's enough for two 8-foot parking on one side and 8 foot on the other, plus the roadbed. What's the typical width of that roadbed there, JR?
60?
I would say the roadway itself is probably 24, and then you've got curbing on the north side that's probably 7 or 8 feet, and then probably 10 or 12 feet on the other side.
Double that. So,
Yeah, I'm just concerned you might not have a whole lot to work with there on the water side, because truly, even though it's not being utilized by the people, that it is private ownership it looked like on the map on both sides. So, and whether you enter in, we can get a lease. What we did on the other property was we were lucky enough to secure the actual full fee and purchase that property. I'm not sure what DOT's going to want, but if they, whatever you can work out, I'm supportive of it. I think it's a great idea to have an enhancement to our current park that we're building, and I look forward to see what you bring back to us. But I'm good with it. I just those are my concerns, is the current flow and the width of how much room you've got there to work with.
yeah, ideally, down the road, or if we could purchase the parcel to the east with the abandoned home with it there,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that would be a huge opportunity too, but I don't know what the current situation is with that property. And hopefully through discovery with staff, we can move forward, and they can provide a conceptual drawing for the area, and we can also reach out to FDOT. I've made some preliminary phone calls to FDOT, and I have a pretty good feeling that they're going to allow us to work with them on this.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a good plan going forward. Sounds like you've got support from your board.
Thank you. Do we require a vote on that? I'm still new to a lot of this.
How about everybody wave at you? That's a call to wave and support, so you're good.
All right. Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to them.
No, very good. Thank you for your presentation. As you make your way back to your seat, do you have any other comments that you want to talk about? Anything else?
No, I'm good for today. I'm ready to go eat.
Okay. Commissioner Palatka, do you have any comments?
I do. For those of you who are not aware of it, I think the 20th of February we have if you will, the big boy bass tournament coming back to town. Bass Elite, maybe, is that what it's called? Bassmaster Elite. I know this because they're going to be using the Shrine Club, and I'm going to be cooking 250 steaks that day, or day before, so I'll be quite busy. But knowing that was coming, this Sunday I was scrolling through the channels, and I saw, I think it was FS1 Network, and it said bass fisherman or bass something. I said, well, let me turn this on, just see what's going on here. And there's an older fella that's been fishing for over 50 years, and he's like the Dale Earnhardt of fishing. His name's Rick Clunn, and he's won a tournament here on the river before, and and they kind of did a bio on his life and how he started, and he would borrow money to be able to get to the next tournament until he started winning, and then he got really good. But the premise of what all I'm telling you, the whole, just about 90%, and this is a huge plug to our Chamber of Commerce and the good that they do for us, the whole backdrop of all the pictures they were showing, Palatka Clock Tower, Palatka Bridge, him at the down at the waterfront when he hoisted the big trophy up, and it was just Palatka, Palatka, Palatka. So people don't realize the advertisement value that the chamber gets us on a national level is just huge. It's huge. I mean, it's tremendous. And I mean, you can see that clock tower in Palatka just plain as day, and that makes you proud, you know, being a hometown guy or gal. That we're in the big time, and we need to keep swinging for the fence and doing that kind of thing. But I'm guessing Mr. Clun is almost 80 years old, and he bounced around that bass boat pretty dadgum good. I was impressed. I don't believe I could hang with him. But anyhow, and that's coming again, and I hope he's in that tournament. I'd like to meet him and go up and shake his hand. But he's quite a phenomenon for his age and be out there still hustling it. And he did admit, he says, I hate that getting up before daylight. He said, but as soon as that sun cracks, he said, I'm ready. He said, so anyhow, I wish him and all the fishermen a lot of luck, and I'd like to see some big bass come out of that river at that tournament in February. I'm done.
All right. Commissioner Alexander, I'll go back to you real quick.
On that note, I would like to talk about the Pico boat ramp someday, not today, but there is a need. There's this, yes, so I'm sure you guys are all well aware of it, but one day.
Okay, and I think we'll get an update too. We can ask for an update too on our next meeting from staff, and then we can ask questions. All right, Commissioner Newbold.
I hate to slow us down, but I have a couple of things.
You're fine. That's what we've got.
Being new to the scene here, I understand we have an impact fee study that's scheduled to come back to us in the near future. What is the timing of that report?
I believe March, but I'll defer to staff.
And we confirmed this week that they're still on target.
Okay.
They're shooting for a March report.
Okay, and how does that come to us in advance? How will that process proceed once that report is tendered?
Much like agendas, the report will be issued to you guys at least a week in advance prior to the conversation coming before you. There are some milestones and timelines based on your timing for desired implementation if you so choose to move in that direction. So we don't want to impose a lot of delays in that process or schedule. But during that time period where you receive the report and we've set the meeting for the discussion, you'll have full access to staff who can answer questions that you may have about it.
Thank you. I want to thank Tim Hoteling for, he's a frequent flyer here, but I appreciate where he was trying to go with his storm debris discussion. I have a little experience with storm debris issues both in Putnam County and St. Johns and Flower County, and I'd like to say that we are, believe it or not, Putnam County is head and shoulders above our surrounding counties with this program. We've done innovative things. We have gotten debris up faster and in a more organized fashion than our peers, and I'll commend our staff and everybody for that. Nobody knows about it. There's still a little bit of a disconnect between the public. There's a great apparatus to use, to report, to get updates, and nobody knows. Just one little thing, I think one day, I hope we have the capacity for a public information officer who there are so many things that are going on in Putnam County that are positive, so many ways we can get out in front of issues that could quell a lot of public comment like this if we have a public information officer. So I'm just planting a seed there. I'll drop that one. I think that's it. That'll wrap me up. I'll pass along the mic.
All right. Commissioner Harvey, you recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to say thank you, amen, to Commissioner Newbold's request. I love that idea. Comments about 315. I want to thank Public Works. We sat down with the maps in hand. They weren't the newest maps, but they were the maps. And we sat down and went over every driveway, everywhere that I was involved. Some of the not commitments, but some of the ideas we had to fix some of those roads out there with the millings. And I really appreciate that, because as we travel, or I travel that road quite often, we know where the dead possum is at. And for us not to be able to share that would just be terrible. And I recommend this to commissioners all over the state. It's not your fault. There's a project comes along, and things change on us, and we don't know that from our level, and we think things are still moving forward in that direction. But I will tell you that you worked very hard to get those 2 projects done at the 90% level, and you're moving very fast with DOT. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because that road needs to get done. We need to get out of the west end and move to other ends of the county, and it's very important. And also, we're keeping our word with DOT, and we're delivering a good product. And that means a lot to me, because when you go to them, there's no more sly remarks. There's no more, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't check the box. We are checking the boxes, and we're delivering. So thank you, Mr. Stout, Mr. Knowles, Mr. Grimes. We appreciate it. We have to call you Mr. Grimes now, so we appreciate that. Sue Holland, thank you for the kind words today. That project has been years and years and years in the making, and we waited for right away. We waited for water lines to go down. We waited because we didn't want to build a road and tear the road up. We waited for the flood to reside many, many times. And it's still flooding on that road somewhat, but you've got a paved road, and we appreciate that. And that's one of those frustrating times in county government, that things seem to drag on, but the final result is good. Commissioners, I do want to wish you a Happy New Year. 2025 is going to be a great year. I do want to make a mention of debris pickup. I know how frustrating it is. Last week I gave Mr. Grimes and Mr. Tilton some areas that were one road that had 8 or 9 addresses on it. Well, the debris contractor went out there and picked up 3, turned left, and left the other ones. And when it was pointed back out to them, Mr. Tilton, it was pointed by you and Mr. Grimes. They went out there again the next day, and they finally picked up everything. And my phone quit ringing, and the remarks stopped. That's not our fault. We can't handhold a contractor and say, be here, we gave them the numbers, and we expected them to do the job. But they did finally, and the community's all cleaned up, so I appreciate that. I'm going to ask for a little levity here, or a little bit of time. A few weeks ago, Mr. Tom Hoverson with Camarco Product sent out an email to us about the condition of Camarco and the impact that Camarco products have made in Putnam County. Very important to know that, and I'm just going to kind of go over some of my notes that I told him. 25 years ago, as a chamber member, we were advised to build a spec building, and that money came out of the county coffers on Better Place Plan money, way before any of us were ever on the board, and in hopes that they would come. And I said, little did they know that you would be the one that came. He didn't pay full price of what it cost the county to build that building, and frankly, privately, I would have given him the building, because we needed to get that thing off the county tax of paying nothing back into the private hands, and made that very clear to our administrator even back then, that he almost got a building for free, not necessarily for free, but I'm just saying. But the man went above and beyond what he promised Putnam County he would do. At the time, we had a commissioner that wanted to look over his financials and all that. And I went, no, we just need to take people for their word. And this man has a vision and a dream to relocate from New Jersey and come down here. He has put millions of dollars of renovation into that building. And if you ever walked into that building prior to that, it was a dirt floor. It had a little bit of concrete around the edges, but that was about it. I didn't see any hope for that building, frankly. But he saw something that he could be proud of. Not only did he meet his word, he exceeded his word. And sometimes as a political leader, we take heat for every decision we make. You'll leave here today and you'll go, did I make the right decision? You make the best decision, like Commissioner John Eubanks told me one time, with the information you have available to you at that moment. So we made the best decision. He bought the building. He put millions of dollars into it, moved his business down from New Jersey to here, and has exceeded it. Sometimes what I'm trying to say is, folks, we have to take that chance on people. We can't be sitting there going, you haven't showed us enough. Imagine if you'd have been with Walt Disney back years ago when he would have said, Commissioner Palatka, I need you to give me $1 million. I'm going to build a kingdom about a mouse in the swamps of Central Florida. And I would have said to him, you lost your mind. You know, you've been out in the sun way too long. You got bit by a mosquito way too many times. But the man had a vision and a dream, and it came to pass. This man had a vision and a dream, and it's only excelled in Putnam County. Now he's looking to expand his facility here in Putnam County, do more in Putnam County, hire more people in Putnam County. He's got over 100 employees. What that impact is to our economy is tremendous. So, again, sometimes as political leaders, we have to take a chance on people and hope that we are proved basically wrong, that we don't demand their financials, but that we trust people to do the right thing. And this man went over and beyond that. So, Tom Hoverson, you didn't know I was doing this today, but I applaud you. I thank you for bringing your business to Putnam County, and I look forward to more people who want to come to Putnam County and we can take a chance on. And Madam Chair, that is the end of my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Administrator Suggs, you had another comment?
Yes, ma'am. First, I want to follow up on Commissioner Harvey's comments. You know, the first time I ever met Mr. Hoverson, you know, and listened to him and heard him and saw his vision, he's done everything he's always said he was going to do. He is a tremendous asset to this community. I think he employs over 100-something people out there. I think they run 7 days a week. I believe they might even run 2 shifts, but he's done everything he's always said he's going to do. He's a man of high character, so I'm sure he appreciates your comments today, Commissioner Harvey. Yes, ma'am. I wanted to follow up on Commissioner Pellicier's comments about the Bassmaster Elite. Apologize for not jumping in sooner. But we also have another event going on that same weekend. It's the 76th Annual Azalea Festival. Revitalized Palatka's putting it on downtown as well, headed up by Miss Kathy Griffin. So I just wanted to share that as well. I know she's been in contact with both myself as well as Mr. Reynolds about utilizing the parking lot over the weekend. And she's partnered with the chamber, so there should be no issue with the tournament at all. I just want to make you five aware that there is a second event going in conjunction with it. And from what I understand, Revitalize Palatka as well as the chamber has worked through any and all issues to make sure that both events come off without any issues. So it should be a very, very well-attended weekend in Putnam County and the city of Palatka. So just want to share that as well, and thank you for letting me make those comments.
I think he's going to have some carnival rides there for the younger population as well. Thank you. Also, Commissioners, the three of you, if you haven't had a chance to go visit Camargo, he'll give you a tour, and it's very well, it's very educational, and I think it's well worth going. First, I want to say thank you all for your patience today. I know I moved the schedule around a little bit. It's important for me to not see our citizens sit here for 4 hours, and so I tried to move them up as quick as I could. I know we had some time certains. That's not how we used to do it, but it's really important for me to, personally, to not let people sit here longer than they need to. I want to mention that Animal Services is moving along. I went out there and looked at the building. If you haven't done that, please do so. They are moving construction along, and we are continuing to hold adoption events every weekend. And during the Christmas holiday, I want to give a shout out and thank 386 Nutrition. They put a tree up in their lobby and put little cards on it about adoption dogs. And between that and some Cause for Putnam and other groups joining together, I think we were able to get about 12 dogs adopted out just from that event. So I appreciate that. And I want to thank staff and my fellow commissioners for working together on legislative priorities. It's always hard because we can't have those discussions one-on-one, but I think we were able to get a good list off to our state representative and legislators, and I think I'm hoping that we have a very successful year. Also, we have started our community paramedic program, and so we haven't started it. We're in the middle of training. JR, do you want to make any comments on that?
Most certainly, and I think it's going to be a wonderful program, outreach. I mean, as far as it could be from we got to catch our students early. They have pamphlets. They need to be in schools and back to, I mean, when I was in school, one of the things is the sheriff used to come down and visit the school and told us to stay off the drugs and things like that. I think that's going to be an important aspect of our community paramedic program is entering the classroom, which I don't know that gets done, but that's going to be one of our priorities is to put them in a classroom, let them talk to our children. And also it's going to give some things out that I think are really important because a lot of times you can relieve your 911 system by being a little bit proactive because you know, if you'll talk to any of the people on the street, they go to some of the same addresses multiple times because people maybe not understand their health care. They may not understand the instructions, but those are where them people can intervene and do things. They're also going to enter we're working on through protocols is doing a medically assisted program where we can do the different medications that it helps bring people from their drug usage into maybe a less, I'm trying to word it correctly, less.
It's okay, we got it.
Yeah,
right.
you know, so they don't have the high, they can get the same feeling, but it's able to
Right.
bring it down through medicated assisted programs. So that's going to be a cool program, I think, that helps the citizens out. The more we can do reduction in that, the better we're going to be. So we're going to enter those kind of programs. The people that are working it are very excited. It was actually, we reached out to several people inside the community. Commissioner Wilkinson gave us one from the Life Church,
Yes.
a lady that reached out. Also, Reverend Carl Flagg sat on the hiring committee. So we actually had people just outside of our own agency because we thought that would be really important for them to be interviewed by people from the community. So that we did do that. The selections came through. All three of them are really excited about the program. The sky's going to be the limit for them. I mean, they can get in and all the programs, whether through the Public Safety Coordination Council, I think that maybe Commissioner Alexander is the chair of now, things like that to where they can start putting the links and pieces together, which I think has always been an issue. Everybody's trying to do their own thing, but the cohesiveness, pulling the same rope, I mean, and maybe this is the program where everybody gets on the same page and pushes, you know, and makes it better for the community. So I think it's going to be a really interesting program. They're going to travel around. We've made contact into Clay County. So our folks are going to go see how other places are doing it before we get really active. Because, I mean, there's no sense in reinventing the wheel when we just need to put a little air in the tire and adapt it to our community. So they're working on that kind of stuff, and they're doing training and getting ideas done. But, I mean, one of them actually got proactive the other day and went down and visited the cold weather shelter to see if they could extend help. So, I mean, it's those things. They're going to have to build relationships in the community. And I think we've got the right people in the place to do that. I think they're going to do a great job.
Thank you for that. And I think in the future, we'll probably get another update, maybe have them come do a presentation in a few months. I know, like you said, they're still in their training and trying to figure out what's going to work in Putnam County. But the idea is to reduce some of the 911 calls, reduce some of the repeaters, and just people that are utilizing the overburdening the 911 system. So there's going to, and it can be anything from helping them with their medicines to you know, maybe they need a walker until they get their one from their prescription. So there's lots of different options that sounds like the community paramedicine program will be able to help with.
Absolutely. It's going to be, I mean, like I said, some of the things they did was in Clay, they noticed that a lot of people were slipping and falling. So they did a no-slip sock thing that they did. They collected up and gave to citizens. And, I mean, and it was kind of one of those things. I mean, we'll run to somebody that slipped and fell, and you may say, well, why? Because maybe they have a real slick floor and they just need some grip on their socks. So that was just one of the things they did. They also did like a drive to get wheelchairs and walkers out, because sometimes you get released at 8 o'clock at night. Maybe it's not possible to get that. Well, these people work 24 hours. So if somebody was to get released and they called and said, hey, they need a wheelchair, then maybe we're going to set up maybe a pod or Connex box there where they can go pick up something and take it out to the community. Also, it's just tying them in. I mean, sometimes we run diabetics because they don't have food. Yep. But, I mean, a lot of times we can coordinate and tell them where the food pantries are, where the church is doing the giveaways. So, I mean, it's not, and I told them, I said, go pick it up for them and take it to their house, right? I mean, when you build these relationships. So there's a lot of things they can do, and they can get the folks in Fire Rescue that could participate as well. I mean, I mean, it's a lot of times it's just going and checking on somebody, right? Making sure they're still doing good or if they need assistance. So those are a lot of things they can do, but they're also fully ALS capable, right? So if they happen to be in the area, they can go in and maybe make life-saving maneuvers waiting on an ambulance if they just happen to be in the same area. So it increases our responses. I mean, for community success, I think they're set up very well. So I look forward to the program. I think it's going to be a great thing for our community. The good thing is it's funded, I think, for several years through some dollars. It was from the opioid abatement funds. So we got several years to get the program up. I mean, one day it's going to have to come back before the board to see if we want to continue it. But I think right now it's a great program, and I think it's something we can use in the future that can help relieve some stress on the 911 system.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And I gave a list of food resources out to Richard back today, so he can share that with your staff. Also, lastly, I'd like to say that some of us attended the swearing in at the City Commission meeting, and of course our constitutional officers last week. And all I can say is we have a lot of great people working in Putnam County, and I'm excited about the future. So with that, is there anything else to come before the board? All right, this meeting's adjourned.